This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 529 for the week of Monday, July 23rd, 2018. My name is Zach.
And my name is Ed.
And my name is Steve.
And on today's show, we have a very special guest, translator for One Piece and Weekly Shonen Jump, and fresh back from San Diego Comic-Con, we have Stephen Paul with us. How's it going, Stephen?
Hey, pretty good. Very wow, I can't believe we did have an episode last week because it feels like it's been 3. I had a very long con.
At San Diego Comic-Con seems like one of those cons that probably takes a lot out of you in good and bad ways.
Yeah, we went to all 4 days, so
wow. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the news segment. We have a news segment this week, which you all should listen to because there's a lot of big One Piece news, including stuff that Greg mentioned from Japan, and we also have reporters live on the ground, Kelly and William. So we're going to talk a lot more about that shortly. We have more guests with us, though. We have Eisner Award-nominated author of Merman, Joey Weiser, and also Toho Yaro co-host. How's it going, Joey?
Good. I'm recovering from a full weekend of San Diego FOMO.
And last, but certainly not least, is a thing that I say. We have Dennis, also known as Itchnob. He is the host of the Vintage Anime Podcast. How's it going, Dennis?
It is going well. I am also both physically and monetarily trying to recover from a full weekend of San Diego Comic-Con madness.
Yeah, we have our SDCC people here with us today. Before we get into the show, couple things. There won't be no One Piece next week, so you may have noticed that the Food Wars author did a little special one-shot thing for Sanji in this week's issue of Jump. We will be going through that next week since we have the week off for One Piece. We figured that's a pretty good manga recap to substitute things with. So look forward to that next week. Yeah, One Piece will be back in 2 weeks with chapter 913. Yeah, 813 happened a little while ago at this point. And I want to remind people, we have double the episodes of the One Piece podcast. This is going through the entire summer and some of the fall, most of the fall. We're right now, we just released our Alabasta episode of the One Piece read-through. These come out every Friday. We start our Skypiea episodes this Friday, which coincidentally, both of these Skypiea episodes will be coming just before the Skypiea special airs in Japan, and crossing our fingers maybe in the United States and internationally as well. Make sure you let Crunchyroll and Funimation know that you want to see that. I don't know if I don't think that's been announced by them, so until we hear that. And I also want to remind people out there to subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. There's a lot of cool material on there, including all of Maddie's alternative title and image combinations, and that alone I think is worth a subscription. But we also have exclusives, outtakes, videos, more, all at patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. So we got news to go through, including news from Greg, without Greg here, but from Greg's mouth to your ears. We also have news, I don't know, we'll go through some San Diego Comic-Con anecdotes, and a lot of news over in Japan for One Piece Day. So why don't we get into that? And then we'll go through the manga recap, anime recap, and some Piece Together. You guys ready?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Big news, everyone. This is the news segment. Hey, that's a new thing that I'll do. There was a fan that suggested that, and so I will follow that really good advice. There's a lot of news out there, but we had people asking, was there any update with the live action film since it's been a year? This is the second annual One Piece Day. So, Ed, I'll throw it to you. Greg was there. What was the update?
Oh, Greg, and Greg posted this on Twitter, so they go over the role of from the panel held for One Piece Day at the Tokyo Tower, right?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
Okay. So they're currently working on the scenario, or the way Greg translated it, scenario, script, I guess overall plot, I think, but it's left ambiguous. They do have a, I guess, writer for the show, maybe a sort of a head writer, but Naito-san says they can't say the name yet. They recently had a meeting with Marty Adelstein, the CEO of the studio, with Oda there, and that was about a week ago. So they assure fans that the project is definitely moving ahead, and please do not worry about it. So, so there was they had dinner together for that meeting, and Sugita-san ponders talking a bit about the story, but decides against it because he might get in trouble. So the writer did impress Oda-san with his love for One Piece, and they acknowledge that there are difficulties in making live action. So he uses, Sugita says, for example, there was a version that fully respected what One Piece is, but even so, it's extremely tough to get everything perfect on the first attempt. So they're working very closely and deliberately with the team and making it come together. And which is that's like perfect Japanese corporate talk.
Sugita was the penultimate most recent editor.
He's the media editor.
Exactly. Yeah, he's currently the media editor. Naito, is that?
I think that's the current editor.
Okay, that's who. Yeah, I should know that. Go ahead, Ed.
Continuing along, Oda was surprised. He was excited. He said things like, "You want to use that story from the series?" So he seems very excited about that, and Naito assures us that the team can be trusted to work on it. And Sugita thanked the studio representatives for coming to Japan because Oda is so busy he couldn't come to America.
It seems interesting that from what we could gather here, it's probably not going to be a straight adaptation, which is something we were actually talking about a year ago when this first came up. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about what you heard or did not hear here.
I don't know. We got it. We have a faithful adaptation in English and Japanese and in English for most of it. So whatever we get in the live action is going to be,
its own thing.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it. As long as it's got the spirit of One Piece, I'll probably watch it.
Yeah, the remark where Oda was surprised that they were pulling from some specific story within One Piece makes me think that they really are going to kind of jump around and take elements from all over the series or something. Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Update by Jump Festa, so that's 6 months.
Soon, yeah. I mean, soon, relatively. Anyway, so there was a lot happened at the One Piece Tower event. I mentioned it briefly, but Kelly and William were there. We have full updates on our Twitter. You could scroll through our timeline for those. I believe there was a new Luffy. I think there was a new Zoro figure, and they kind of went through the creation of those and talked a lot about the merchandise. So there's a panel for that. Greg was at a panel with I believe, actor Shu Watanabe and the media editor who we were just talking about, Sugita. You could check that out if you want to hear Greg speak a lot of Japanese. And if you understand Japanese, I believe he's just talking about basically going beyond the manga. And you could check out some of that translation on Twitter, and we're going to be putting that more of that on the website. But notice it does emphasize that Oda is really into the Bachelor Japan, and let's just note that. Also, that there's a hashtag. It is in Japanese, and this hashtag will go directly to Oda through July 27th at 23:59 Japanese time. So that's midnight Japanese time. So that would be July 26th, which is at around 10 a.m. Is that right? Or is it 2 p.m. Eastern time? I should know that. I'm usually pretty good with that. But just you could look it up online. So the hashtag, I'm going to have retweeted it tonight so you could see it. And just use that on Twitter if you want to send those directly to Oda. There's a lot more from that weekend again on our Twitter page. Other than that, there was one little other announcement, and that was the 3D2Y to 2020 Kiseki, which I don't know, was anything actually announced with that? I think it's supposed to be announced on the 24th, which would be the day this podcast is released. Has anyone heard anything about that?
No.
I do not know.
I think we're under the impression that it might be Olympic related, but there's nothing to, and that kind of has to do with the color spread, maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking that
There's
too.
nothing that's happening in 2020 in Japan that isn't Olympic related.
Do you know what kiseki means, Stephen?
Well, I can't see the kanji. It could be miracle, or it could be kiseki is also kind of like a trail or like the path that you leave behind as you go somewhere. So I don't know.
Sounds like the latter.
This is like I'm literally hearing this for the first time, so I have no idea. I've been out of the loop today.
No, that's fine. Yeah, this happened over the weekend, I think. I know you were at San Diego Comic-Con, which we'll get to in a moment. And there's one other thing that Greg did that I completely forgot to mention. He got to try out 2 awesome new watches from Tendance Japan. One looks like a log pose, and the other has like the One Piece map in the background. They're both really cool. They're classy looking. If you want to see those, hopefully we'll have an article on the site relatively soon as well, but this is all on our Twitter page. Do you guys have anything you want to mention from One Piece Day that I haven't mentioned or have mentioned? No?
I like the watch, but...
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Dennis.
I like the watch, but man, is that thing massive. At least it isn't as tall as an actual log pose is.
It looks
Otherwise,
almost as big, yeah.
Yeah. And I know that couple like a decade or something ago that big watches were in the fashion for a while, so maybe it's a resurgence. Who knows?
I like that they did the little like take a crowd selfie thing, and Kelly and William are there in the back if you look hard enough.
Yeah, I liked playing the Where's Waldo there.
Yeah.
Actually, there were a decent amount of Western fans, like more than I would think there.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were like maybe 6. That's not bad. Including Kelly and William, and including Greg. So yeah, let's talk about San Diego Comic-Con. Steven, you want to start since you were at a panel and stuff? How was your weekend?
Yeah. Oh man, it was great. It was very busy. I'll try to keep the kind of personal stuff to a minimum. But I saw and hung out with so many people with the translator of Naruto, and Rachel Thorne, who is an old Viz translator, does a lot of the like Hagio Moto or Moto Hagio books like Otherworld Barbara, and Zach Davison, the guy who does all the like Devilman and Kitaro and old Leiji Matsumoto stuff. I got to hang out with some Viz stuff. Last day we met up with Caleb, who's the translator for My Hero Academia, which was like his first big con, I guess. He'd never been to like a huge comic convention before. So he had just been kind of through a whirlwind of experiences.
That
obviously,
is a whirlwind.
Yeah, including, obviously like being behind the scenes and interacting with the whole team there with Viz and the author and stuff. And there wasn't a lot of One Piece stuff specifically. They did have a brief mention of the Color Walk Compendium during the Shonen Jump panel, but it was obviously all about My Hero Academia this year. And we did get to be on, or to be in the room for the Shonen Jump panel, and they actually hired. They got us to volunteer to hand out those posters that were there for I guess they were giveaways at the booth. Is that right, Dennis? And then
they had 2 different posters. There was the poster that they had for Anime Expo that was like the heroes versus villains.
Okay,
and
that's
then,
the one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and then during the Horikoshi panel themselves, they handed out, I think, in collaboration with Funimation, since the voice actors for All Might and Deku were there, they handed out the new promo poster for the movie.
Okay. Yeah. We were handing out the heroes versus villains.
But I can't remember that name of the movie.
We were handing out the heroes versus villains posters at the panel, just passing them down, counting the heads, and passing them down the aisles and stuff like that. And so it was cool. We were hanging out in the green room, like 15 feet away from Kohei Horikoshi, which was neat. I'm sure the guy was like just completely overwhelmed with with everything. It sounded like kind of all of every appearance that he made, whether on a panel or for his signings, were just kind of madness. So I'm glad he got through it without too much incident. Although, it sounded like from Dennis's perspective, on the fan side, it was definitely not easy to get any of that.
Nope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was very telling when Deb Aoki was like tweeting question and answers from his panel, and I think someone asked if he would ever come to New York Comic Con or something, and he said like, I'd like to, but I have deadlines to meet, and I felt like that was the very like, this is killing me kind of answer.
Yeah. His panel was great. There were no fan questions asked, which I thought was good because they did fan questions at the Shonen Jump one.
Yep.
Oh,
there was only
one.
There was one person who did not. They shut her down, and it was sad. It was sad because she was like the one person who was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry for my English. I came, but I just want to ask this question. I'm so nervous." And then she was like, "Do you ship any of your characters?" And
thank God, I got shut down.
And Uriah was like, "Nope, we're not asking that question. Sorry, next question." And just like completely.
For any listeners out there, if you haven't experienced the magic that is Uriah Brown moderating a panel, do yourself a favor and go to one. He is so good at making the panel flow.
Yeah.
So
it did. Yeah. The panel itself was great. It was really fun.
At the same time, look, I love Uriah, but it's hard for me to picture him as the consummate professional at the panel. But there you go.
Zach said it first, and now I just gotta chime in and say, like, I'm kind of surprised that he was the one.
It's not that he's so much of a professional. He's more like a bouncer, Like he's
that's
just
true.
like, all right, move it along.
I could see that. I'm just upset he wasn't.
Them shoes.
I'm just upset he wasn't in his Senor Pink costume though while he was moderating it. Maybe next time. Any other?
He has to be at a One Piece panel, not a My Hero Academia.
No, I think it's even better if it's more inappropriate.
I think Oda, if Oda saw what happened at San Diego and saw questions like that, Oda would say, "Oh no, never."
I'm sure he gets those anyway. He's gotten more ridiculous questions in the SBS. Let's be fair.
He's too busy answering questions about private parts. So
yeah. Exactly.
Any other San Diego Comic-Con stuff you guys want to? Dennis?
I will say this is completely unrelated to anything manga related, but I went to the DuckTales panel for the cartoon, and they had Danny Pudi, Ben Schwartz, and Bobby Moynihan there who played the nephews. And if you guys like 20 minutes of bullshit, that was 60 minutes of bullshit. It was amazing. It was so funny, and they were amazing at riffing with each other. I don't know if there's a recording out there or if they put up anything like that, but if there is, do check that out because it was hilarious.
Damn. Yeah, I like those guys. Yeah, that's a good combo of people. All right, I think that'll do it for our news segment. I'm sure we've missed something, but that's what next week's for. Why don't we start the manga? You guys ready?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
This is the manga recap for chapter 912, Amigasa Village. Is that pronounced correctly, Steven?
You did it.
I did it, yeah. Let's start with the cover of Shonen Jump. I do want to mention that this cover is stolen from a photo shoot I did with Alex last year. And I plan to press charges against Shueisha. Also, the Japanese version of this cover included 2 actual people. Is that correct? I saw that on Twitter.
They're wearing like the Anchor t-shirt, right?
Yeah, who are those guys? How do they get to be on a Shonen Jump cover?
I don't know.
He asked somewhat jealously.
Somewhat jealously.
I would just find it funny if Zach tried suing Shueisha. Zach, the host of the One Piece podcast.
Yeah, you got plenty of other things we could sue Shueisha for.
No, that's Toei. Anyway, what do you guys think of this cover?
There sure are a lot of One Piece volumes.
Yeah.
But there were things in there. I think I saw like some of the data books were in there as well.
Oh, that's
Or
cool.
wait, no, there wasn't. I
That was
remember
Alex's picture.
Alex's picture.
See?
The art.
And you remember your copyright and
all
trademark.
blending together.
You remember your copyright and trademark classes. It's when there's confusion. That's one of the. Anyway, let's talk about the color spread here, Ed.
Sure. Yeah, it's a looks like sport. It's obviously sports themed, but I think these are all Olympic sports. So we get the Zoro playing baseball, Luffy with his judo gi on, Nami with her tennis racket, Brook kicking his head instead of the ball, or possibly heading the ball and then kicking his head. Not sure. Sanji doing a butterfly stroke. Frankie dunking on some poor sap who we see the back of his head.
Cyber
And-
dunk.
You see
Yeah,
his
when
tank
he's
heads, too.
the tank treads. Chopper boxing. Usopp with his air pistol, which is in fact an Olympic sport, and Robin with her prized dressage horse Rafalka.
Thank you. Ed, this is why you're my co-host. I could count on you for making a Colbert reference from 2004. I'm sorry, 2012.
No,
God.
it was 2000. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
2012 because it's Mitt Romney's horse.
Sorry, John Kerry and Mitt Romney fused together as one human being in my brain.
John Kerry went kiteboarding, right?
Windsurfing. That was
Right.
the yeah. And we could talk about that all day.
I
Anyway,
just have
yeah.
a question. I have a question before we talk about this any further. If Jinbei was on this color spread, what would his sport be?
Wrestling, probably.
You know, next time just send this in on Piece
Swimming.
the Tweet, Steve.
Yeah,
because,
Luffy and Sanji are stealing both of Jinbei's sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jinbei's
No,
like
but
a-
if Jinbei was like Greco-Roman wrestling, we could see him in like a onesie.
I
singlet.
bet
Or
Jinbei would be a really good shot putter.
Judo. Is judo an Olympic sport? I should know that. I don't think
It
it
is.
is. It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Like Ronda Rousey, she won a bronze medal in
This
judo.
is the first year karate is actually going to be an Olympic sport. Taekwondo and judo were both Olympic sports and remain so. But
Or
What-
maybe it's Luffy's karate gi, maybe.
What if
Yeah, that is what
Jinbei
that
was a gymnast, you know?
okay. Any other thoughts on this
For
color
that.
spread?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Zoro
Uh,
baseball bat.
Zoro's-
Say persistence pays. I assume off.
Yeah. And I
I'm
love the
surprised
little
he's-
like Brooke is playing against some robots or with robots.
Oh,
very
I
future.
didn't notice that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see that. Okay.
I'm
Uh,
surprised Zoro isn't doing fencing. That's all.
No, I,
Two on
I love that he's doing baseball. Like, that's so good.
Yeah.
It's just
I
like
agree.
the Game Boy game.
Yeah, it's really
Uh,
kind of fun to see who was matched up with what sport.
Yeah.
Well, Sanji because of the kicking, you see.
I see. And Megalo Chop.
Okay, I get it.
He's 2 for 2 with color spreads. I love this color spread. There is
Yeah.
so much. There's so much motion, so much great dynamic posing, foreshortening. It's this one's really awesome. I like the poses are great too. Like Sanji's is a straight on pose, but just it looks great. There's the hair is like the way his hair is fantastic. Nami has a really great pose. And Zoro too, like Zoro with the foreshortening, and of course, the 3 bats. This is an awesome color spread. I even love the background colors, the primary zebra stripe gum going on back there. It's fantastic.
I just realized Sanji would probably have to shave his legs if he were swimming.
Well, he
Well,
could be
this-
wearing those swim pants, so no.
Actually, those are banned in the Olympics now.
Oh, they are.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's got it under control now that they banned Ryan Lochte. It's all coming up Sanji.
It's all coming up Sanji. Yeah, Robin and dressage was definitely the highlight of this for some reason. It's just because it's like it fits and it doesn't fit, and it's funny because and also look at that horse. He's pissed. He does not like being a dressage horse at all. He's like, I could have been any type of horse, but you're making me prance around.
I've had it with your fancy dancing.
Well, would any animal take pride in a sport where they gain nothing
They get fed.
Yeah.
besides not being sent to the glue factory? I don't know.
Fine. You'll piss off the horse people.
Yeah, there's no part of this color spread I don't love. So I feel like there's yeah.
We're just missing out on Jinbei in a onesie.
Maybe in 2020 we'll finally get a updated version of this.
Maybe this will be next summer's calendar image.
Yeah, we did mention this in the news segment, but this did immediately bring to mind the Olympics to me.
Mm-hmm. This is definitely I mean, these are all Olympic sports. Also,
people are surprised when I tell them air pistol is an Olympic sport.
People should be more surprised that dressage is an Olympic sport.
Which sometimes happens oceans away from the actual games because the horses can't travel, like when they had the games in Australia.
Also, is the background the Olympic colors? I mean, I know the white background for the Olympic flag.
You're missing green and
I'm also
black.
colorblind, so this is not going
to... Yes.
It's a trick question.
What does black look like? So let's start the chapter, Ed.
Sure. Back where we started. Although I do appreciate the image of Luffy, the grumbling stomach and licking the bowl from last week's chapter.
I guess, is that Urian who chooses these? I'm assuming it is.
Because somebody does.
They've called out. It's one of their designers.
Props to him for this week. I hope he continues. And they also whited out the rest of the or was it white out? Was it blank? I can't even recall from last week.
Well, it was a smaller panel that had no background, so now there's just even more negative space. So it just makes it even funnier.
It is way funnier.
I want Jill to make this as a shirt.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so
my
go
only
ahead.
qualms with Jill's shirts is that you can wear them once. God, if you put them in the wash or the dryer, those decals will come right off.
Yeah.
So this is me saying Jill needs to invest in a silkscreen printing press. I'm sure those are cheap.
All right. So Luffy continues from last chapter. He says, "When you say you're waiting for Ace, you mean Port Gistiace? Is that it, Tama?" And she responds, "Big bro, are you saying you know him?" Luffy responds, straight into the camera. "Yeah." Silent Tengu looks on. Luffy opens his mouth again, says, "Ace is dead."
Sorry.
He's dead.
He's dead. He's not living in tropical pink.
All right, I'm sure normal devoted One Piece fans probably thought this was a very emotional moment, and I cracked up. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. I apologize.
He's very blunt.
Last chapter did leave me kind of wondering if they were going to kind of string this reveal to her along and then kind of have an emotional moment where he reveals this, or if they were going to get it out of the way. And here we see first page.
If he didn't put it at the end of last chapter, there's no not addressing it in this chapter. I don't think he wants it to have that sort of emotional impact. I think that's why he puts it in the chapter.
Yeah, and Luffy doesn't have that kind of tact.
Nope. That's true.
Not at all.
I think this is also played for comedy, even for the Japanese audience, I assume. Just because it's oh, you're being too blunt, Luffy, which they kind of go through in the coming pages. But yeah, every single panel we've done, I feel has had a moment where where Ed has made that face and said that. Ed is
it was
the
Dennis, Dennis, wasn't it you at our Anime Expo panel?
Yeah, you want to, Dennis?
Yeah.
It's been 8 years. Do you want to say that story again? Quickly,
sure.
and then we'll actually go through the manga.
My cosplay group dressed up as Marines, and we had this one game for everyone where we had footballs that were decked out like lava dog footballs, so you can throw them through a giant hole in a cardboard cutout of Ace.
And he was dressed up as Sakazuki.
I was Sakazuki, and I walked in to the panel with holding Ace through my arm. With my lava fist through, with my lava fist through it, just what? This is the only way I could carry it. I don't have, and my other hands are full with my bag. What do you want me to do? Put it down, sat down with the loud frumph, and all right, continue the panel.
And I know Zach tweeted earlier today about this is how we start every panel, and I thought it was just an exaggeration. And then I had completely forgotten that at MatsuriCon 2 years ago, that's basically how we started the One Piece podcast panel.
And we've done that. I think we did that in KatsuCon a few times. We actually do.
It was that day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Well, it used to be like, hey, all right, spoiler section. Are we all caught up? Don't want to spoil anybody. Room clear. No one want to get spoiled. Okay, Ace is dead. So
Good way to start a panel.
Anyway,
Let's bring that back.
let's continue to let's continue the chapter. Much like most of our attendees at those panels, Tama is shocked. And the Tengu is just a little bit taken aback. And Tama said, "No, it can't be true. You're a liar," which we've gotten yelled at panels too. And we cut to a little bit later. She is dizzy after hearing this, and also because of the poison she drank. And much like people who come to our panel. And so, sorry. I'll stop now.
Yes, Diet Coke.
Anyway, okay. So yeah, she passes out, and Luffy's like, "Oh, so Ace came here to Wano." And the ogre asks, "Are you an ogre?" But by that I mean the Tengu, who is clearly some sort of demon thing. And he asks, "Why would you say such a thing to her, even if it is the truth?" And Luffy's just like, "Yeah, but he's not gonna show up here. He's dead." I mean, he doesn't say that word for word, but basically, he's not gonna show up here. She can wait forever. He's dead. He's not gonna show up here. And
he's
the guys,
dead. Dead tired of being alive. He's dead.
And the Tengu man says, "There's a better way of breaking the news, Ed." And
What?
we find out the full name of the Tengu guy, and he is the Katana Blacksmith Tenguyama Hitetsu, who is also a cute girl Kokeshi doll collector. What the hell is that, Steven?
It's well.
All right,
These little wooden dolls with the round heads on them. They sort of tip and fall over. It's also a wrestling move where the guy stands up and just falls down and hits you with his head.
That sounds like the Spirited Away guys with the head.
The first thing it made me think of is that they kind of look like Tama.
Yeah. It's like round head, very simple design, wooden dolls that have the circular head, and then just a cone, not a cone, but like a
cylinder.
Around pillar style body. And they have the kimono, and apparently he collects the ones that are fashioned after cute girls.
Sorry, I was thinking of Princess Mononoke, those guys with the heads that tilt. Anyway,
the Kodama.
Yeah. Luffy said, "I am," and he's. I'm sorry. Hitetsu is exclaiming, "Have you no concept of sensitivity? Who are you?" And Luffy's like, "I'm Luffy, the man who's going to be king of the pirates. And who are you?" And Hitetsu responds, "A pirate. I don't like them as a general rule." And he introduces himself as Hitetsu, the blacksmith of katanas, and he too has been waiting for someone for a very long time.
I want a panel of that as Bart Simpson. I'm going to be king of the pirates. Who the hell are you?
Before we move on from this, I just want to point out, like, Oda's doing some interesting things. I noticed this chapter with kind of like formal comics, like layout and stuff. And I think it's really kind of cool in that Tenguyama Hitetsu panel that his word balloon like follows the shape of a panel, but then the sort of like drawings go past it a little bit. I just think that's a really neat effect that looks cool.
Especially considering that his wings go over the panel above it. So
yeah, it's an interesting design thing.
That's cool. I hadn't noticed that. So on the next page, we start off with a full shot of this little village which Hitetsu describes as Amigasa, the village of woven hats. So I literally just put the translation into the panel there. And they are the only ones left. You can see these buildings. They kind of have not so much like the conical design. These kind of look a little bit more bell-shaped, like maybe a little bit more like the kind of monks, like sort of helmet, like the straw helmet style, a little more conical. But they look all slashed up. and the doors are busted, and there's like barrels and wagons just kind of lying around in disuse. And we learn that this happened because over a year ago, Kaido's forces added a new headliner, which we talked about last week. And this new headliner is a DS Drake who attacked this village. They had 5 samurai, 5 Yojimbo, who protected this territory, but they were wiped out, and thus all the buildings were destroyed. So really, he says there's only one place in Wano that's doing well at all, and that is the flower capital, which is where the shogun resides. So presumably that is the big city that we've been seeing in previous chapters. Everywhere else, it's just a lawless wasteland, and that is because of the what Kaido's forces have been doing. And I love that in this panel, his nose is covering up Luffy's face very deliberately, and Luffy's like, "What wasteland?" And so he explains the backstory here that about 4 years ago, the village was out of food, and the people were beginning to starve. And just when all seemed lost, a pirate ship just washed up on the shore. You can see, it's tilted on its side. There's all these people gathering around it, and the pirates were weakened. They were at the villagers' mercy, so they tied him up. And you can see here that is very clearly Ace and his guys, and he's saying that we ate all of their food and water just so we could survive, and once we were done, then all of a sudden the captain just like popped out of his ropes. You can imagine if it wasn't through physical strength, he could easily just burn them off.
Well, he's clearly on fire there.
Yeah, he's burning them in that next panel. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Now I see the ropes. And so they were all freaked out that, oh God, now they're gonna kill us, and instead Ace just says, where can a guy go to get some good dessert? Mm-hmm. And so that was shocking or stunning to the villagers that after they had tied up these pirates and eaten all of their food, it turned out that they were all right. They stayed with us for several weeks, and Otama was particularly fond of them, and we could see that his nose is blocking Luffy's head yet again, as he's presumably laughing here, and in the corner panel, Luffy's like, I see.
I love that visual parallel on the 2 pages there with covering up Luffy's face. It's the same layout.
Yeah,
he's getting Mike Wazowski.
And the nose just goes on forever, off the panel.
Yeah, his nose has definitely grown somewhat. Dennis.
All right, so Luffy is trying to find out if there is any kind of doctor nearby for Otama, and he wants to take her to get help because he wants to pay her back for the food that she cooked, since that was technically her birthday meal. In the meantime, Hitetsu puts a disguise on Luffy. He gets to wear this nice kimono that I'm not sure if those are patched for holes or if that's just some kind of cool pattern design that's on it. I'm going to assume patch for holes because that looks like a hand stitch job right there.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like the same like with Tama's clothing, like it's kind of busted, like matched up and stuff.
This looks nice.
Is it just me, or is that pattern familiar and I can't quite place it?
Do you remember?
What?
Oh, go ahead. It looks like Kuma's paw pattern because of the dots, but it's a sun instead.
The thing it made me remember is when we were all trying to decipher Frankie's shirt, like in Zoe, and it had like a sun pattern on it.
You're right.
Yeah.
I have to go
and
back.
I think we spent so much time looking at that it just burned itself into my eyes.
that was Zoe. I'm gonna go back and look at that.
Yeah, and it's that thing where we decided it probably meant like I love hentai or something like that.
Ooh.
This is a Taiyo and it was like hentaio or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right. Luffy wearing kimono, and as a cosplayer, I'm like, that looks comfy to wear during summer conventions. Would not mind that at all. Though Luffy does remark that he's a fan of the armor and the helmets. If we go back to Dressrosa and even further back to Thriller Bark, where wearing an armor is a man's romance too. So instead, Hitetsu is like, actually, yeah, I'm sorry, I got weirded out by the speech bubble because it's technically him from the previous panel with Luffy wearing the kimono. But I thought that it was Luffy talking during that speech bubble.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
It's confusing.
I have a problem with this page. As I was just complimenting Oda previously, there's a lot of wonky stuff going on with the layout of this page.
Yeah.
You can tell he's trying to cram stuff in, and I think that would have worked if he'd let the word bubble go farther outside that panel so you could read to it. But I directly went from the armor and helmets 2 word bubble to the I run into my crew if I run into my crew first.
That's supposed to be much later.
Also, Luffy's head is too small in that drawing.
Well, anyway, Hitetsu says, "What fool would wear such things on a normal occasion? No, your strange clothes will stick out." And he's true, since they're supposed to not be from a very well-off area. I'm sure wearing armor is going to probably bring about some form of like, oh, maybe we got a resistor here trying to put up arms against Kaido or something. Well, anyway, Hitetsu says that he can't visit the town for reasons of his own, so he's asking Luffy to do it on his behalf, and he'll have to somehow get the money for any kind of treatment somehow because there's no universal health care in Wano, it seems like. If Luffy runs into his crew first, then the food and care will be free. They'll help you. I'm still confused by that panel.
No, Chopper will take care of her. That's what they're saying.
Okay.
And Sanji. Yeah.
We'll help food. Cool. All right. So they're gonna help recover, at least pay back all the food that way. Hopefully help them to eat a little bit more than just poison stuff. So Luffy also manages to somehow grab a sword to borrow, so that way he'll look like a real samurai. You know, you gotta accessorize if you're gonna cosplay correctly.
I mean, he is a craftsman, so it makes sense there'd be lying around.
He does make blades, and Luffy's got to fit in the whole aspect, you know, since he does have his new top knot and everything.
Yeah.
Secures it into a sash and is about to head out.
Look at that hilt.
Looks very familiar. Anyway, Hitetsu says, "No, wait, you fool! Not that one! It is disrespectful to even touch that blade without reverence. That was forged by my forefather, Kotetsu. It is one of the most famous weapons in all the world." Luffy not even caring. "Hang on, Tama, I'm going to take you to a doctor." and Hitetsu is super right now, like nervous and anxious, and he's just like, "It is counted among the 21 excellent great swords, and its name is Kotetsu 2 Katana Boogaloo." No, it's Kotetsu the second. And for those who, well, even later on, Luffy was like, "Oh, Kotetsu, why does that sound familiar?" But we get this very wordy description, if you want to go throwback to, was it Logtown with Tashigi? Yeah, of the famed swords. Among the countless weapons, swords, spears, etc. in the world, these are the ones forged by celebrated masters of the art. The 12 supreme grades weapons, the 21 excellent grade weapons, and the 50 fine grade weapons. I didn't get to look back on it and figure out which one Kotetsu is, but I think it's either 21, definitely in the 50 range, but I want to say it's in the 21. Do you guys remember?
Yeah. The one that Zoro has?
I'm pretty sure it's one of the 50.
The 50, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because that was like the point, was like, oh, the original one must be a supreme grade weapon.
Yeah, okay.
But this is a confirmation that it doesn't have to be a sword. A blade is any kind of blade.
Yeah, so I actually had to change the name. That's why I used weapons instead of swords, because I was like, oh yeah, that's actually going to be a little awkward if that, you know, if he starts revealing, you know, like pointed spears like that one in the picture.
Yeah.
Well, one of those spears, isn't that Whitebeard's spear?
It kind of looks like it, yeah.
Or like, yeah, those kind of like Chinese halberds or long spears or whatever they call them. That, yeah. Of course, this is hilarious to me because I think like right in the first page or the first chapter, we were like getting questions like, oh, you think they're going to go back and talk about all the different, you know, weapons grade classes? And I was like, I don't know. I think you kind of forgot about that. And then boom, right back.
Also,
well, I mean,
that's
20 years later.
That's Shusui in the front, right?
The black blade?
Yeah, the black blade. It looks like it.
It could be. It doesn't have to be, because
he's drawn a lot of swords that look like
Shusui has this weird like angled teeth pattern type thing, and that doesn't actually match that all that much.
So do you think after a blacksmith makes a sword, he has to send it off to get graded with
Yeah.
CGC
Yeah,
or
it's got to
whatever?
go to CGC and then
Yeah.
has to get PSA
Slab.
stickered.
Like, what is this, like Animal Crossing? Do we have like the Happy Sword Academy? Do they come in and just like grade shit? Well
Yes.
done. It's a really pointy sword.
You got to make sure the CP of it is correct, so that way you have a perfect grade sword. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
to bring things back a little into this mythology, Oda did kind of start this weapon mythology, back in Logtown, and there seems to be a lot of history behind it. And the only two people we really know that are connected to it in any way are Tashigi and Zoro. So I'm interested to see.
No. Mihawk has
Mihawk.
one of the fine. Yeah, he has one of the 12.
But I'm interested to see how this kind of ties in with the rest of the One Piece mythology, because I have a feeling it's not just a separate thing.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me. Anyway,
The swords are from the moon.
that's my prediction, and I'm sticking to it. What if they end up being from the moon?
They're forged from moon rock.
We're all space dust. Yeah. So, anything else, Dennis? There? Or I think you were in the middle.
No, I got to the end with Luffy
Oh, yeah.
going, why does Kotetsu sound familiar? So,
Because he doesn't read One Piece. He doesn't do the read through again. You see, he doesn't
doesn't read.
remember.
he doesn't do trivia on weapons, that's why.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's what we should be doing this week. Okay. What's next, Steve?
Luffy's like, you know what? I'll take it anyway. And Tengu guy, sorry, I gotta go back a page and remember his name again. Anyway,
Tengu Young.
it's Hitetsu, right? Not Kotetsu. Kotetsu
Yes.
was his dad, right? Okay.
How does-
Tattoo.
Any forefather, really, not just.
Yeah, it seems to
So
be
he's
a forefather before that. Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
So he stops him with his nose and says, "No, you may not." And Luffy says, "Oh, then I'll trade it for your katana." And he's like, "No, this one's famed too." And it's like, it's also cursed. Woo, spooky.
Scream.
But
The sword that Luffy has is cursed, not the one that he has.
okay. But no, you'll be under its curse. If anything happens to Otama, you will pay. And Luffy says, like, sure thing, as he sprints away. And Hitetsu's like, you must bring it back. Why are you not responding? No one listens to me.
Yeah, sure, okay.
So Luffy runs off, and then woof woof. It's Kumachio, the talking dog. He doesn't talk. He just says woof. Luffy says, "Oh, hey, it's the dog giving us a ride. Hey, thanks." As they hop on Kumachio, as they ride off into the bamboo forest.
Yeah, they go off into their own Miyazaki film.
Joni loves Camacho.
That we've done that title, and the other time we did it was better.
Okay.
So a little bit of time passes. Otama wakes up and she says, "Oh, big bro," and he says, "Hey, Tama, we're going to go see a doctor. Think the dog knows the way there." And Otama immediately continues where she left off before passing out. She's like, "You're a liar. Ace is coming. He said he would." Luffy says, "He can't. Everyone knows about the Paramount War. Gotta be a loser not to know about the Paramount War." But Otama starts to break down. She says, "But I made him a promise." And we start to get a flashback as she's starting to cry, and we hear, "Ace, take me to sea with you." And Ace says, "But you're only 5 years old, Tama." It's like, "Don't worry, we'll be back, and we'll have a bigger crew too." And she says, "Then will you let me join you?" And on the next page, he just pats her on the head, says, "What a weird little Tama." He doesn't say that either. What he does say is, "Look, a pirate's got to be strong. If you're a bewitching kunoichi, the next time I come here, then I'll take you along." And his two crewmates kind of laugh, and one of them's like, does she need to be bewitching?
They're like, "Do you need to be hitting on a child?"
Yeah.
And,
I like that. I like that we got the explanation that she got that idea from Ace directly. That it wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm gonna grow up and be sexy.
Maybe she doesn't even know what bewitching means.
Right.
Well, I mean, there are ninjas in Wano. We have to assume.
True.
Maybe she's
Yeah.
So I just took it for like she actually is doing training, but maybe she just like idolizes ninjas or something.
There's two really cool things about this that I want to mention quick. The first, it just parallels Luffy's story so directly. The "take me out to sea with you" to Shanks.
Oh yeah,
like, that is like almost verbatim. Also, he is making the the oars, the little oars junior hat. What's that called?
Yeah.
What's it called again, Steven?
The casa, the
Casa.
amigasa.
I was gonna say casa. It sounded wrong.
Yeah.
I kept thinking of a Spanish house for some reason. Go ahead,
it's tu casa. It's I don't know my Spanish either. So yeah, Ace is totally part of the Whitebeard Pirates. For some reason, I was kind of questioning that but he was in the Whitebeard Pirates. What's this, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. But anyway, Thomas says like it's a promise. And then we get back to the past, and she's just bonking Luffy on the head. And says, "We were such good friends. He said he'd come back. You just don't know how nice really is. No one understands Ace but me." And she's like, "You don't know how much it hurts me. He wouldn't just die like that." And Luffy's like, "Oh God." Hold my beer. Maybe says like, "Stop hitting me." It's like, not that it hurts, but I think Luffy's just like, just leaving this one alone. But it's just like, oh, we're almost done passing through the north through the bamboo forest. This is probably actually Otama maybe saying that because Luffy doesn't know north.
Yep.
Oh, because he says the nose Gramps was right, as his face is getting stretched by still an angered Otama. And Camacho kind of kicks up some old animal bones. And as we make it to the clearing, and it just really is a wasteland, and we see it looks a lot like Newark, New Jersey. Right, Sam?
No. Newark looks nicer than this, but it's that area right next to Secaucus.
Secaucus. My mistake.
Welcome to Secaucus, New Jersey.
Welcome to Perth Amboy.
Perth Amboy, that's it. Oh my God, that's it.
If you ever taken that 95 from DC up to New York, boom, same thing. Right?
I was
also wonder where New York threw all of its garbage.
I was also that's where New York puts all its garbage. It used to be Staten Island. I'm not going to continue that sentence. It was the ocean, then Staten Island, and then New Jersey, and that's where we are today. I was going to say this also kind of reminds me of the Lion King, Scar's Kingdom here.
I thought the same thing.
Thank you. Or Perth Amboy.
You think I would go for the Disney reference, but instead I was just like New Jersey, whackity schmackity doo.
Keep
going. And then Nathan Lane walks up and says, like, "We're going to fight your uncle for this?" No, that doesn't happen either. As you know, you probably read this chapter before listening to this podcast. As they observe the wasteland, we see a tiger growl, and Luffy's like, "Ooh, it's a tiger." And his tongue sticks out because he just sees all animals as food. And, and wow, a boar. And the both of them seem to be running. You would think the tiger's chasing after the boar, but it's quite the opposite. The tiger and the boar are running away from a giant sharkodile, not to be confused with a banana gator or a banana dial. Wow, this place is wild.
Yeah, the sharkodile is actually like that. That was kind of a literal translation because what was I guess it was samewani or wanizame, I think. Which is actually a type of shark in Japanese. I think it's a sand tiger or a sand shark or something like that. But literally it means like shark crocodile or shark alligator or something like that. And clearly he kind of was making a joke. He was like, "Oh, well, let's just take the term and like draw it literally." And so I just translated it literally like that.
Yeah, that thing looks nuts.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Monster Hunter or something.
Yeah. And so Luffy points at that. He's still got his tongue hanging out, like, yeah, let's eat that. And Otama is explaining that all the samurai who might do something about this get captured, or they turn into bandits. It's a real hellhole out here, and the animals drink all of the contaminated water. So eating them is poisonous, and that gets Luffy's goat. He's like, "What? But they look so good. That's messed up. Is that the factory making all that smoke?" And she explains that there's a mine and the weapons factory, and it's all full of Kaido's followers and his soldiers. And as Komachio is running forward, we get kind of a cool wider shot of the bamboo forest behind them.
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat, and a few of the kind of the bonsai looking trees. And so he's asking, well, what do they eat then if all the animals are poisoned? And apparently there is a special farm that is in a pristine area just for the Shogun and Kaido. So that's how they get all their food. It's got all the clean water and rice and fish and meat and glurgle. And and so Luffy's like, so they do have food here. And poor Tama, that just thinking about all that food, she's just kind of passing out back there. And Luffy realizes how bad her fever's getting. So the time is of the essence here to get her to a doctor. And he thinks to himself, like, oh, okay, well, I mean, if the bad guys have all the food and the water, that's hey, that makes things simple. Just go there and beat them up and get the food and water. And then we hear off in the distance some woman who is screaming and please forgive me. And some kind of ruffian, some bandit going, wait up, woman. And Luffy hears the phrase, wait up, woman. And then he thinks, is that Sanji?
Sanji's sunk pretty low.
Yeah, pretty brutal. And she's screaming, she's asking anyone help me. And the bandits are going, leave everything you got, woman. And I think actually they may have tied this up, because I think it was more like, leave everything you got, like including your clothes or something like that. And Luffy's like, I wonder if that's Sanji. Nah, probably not, huh? And then he notices that someone else is running up from the side, and we can see just in a little tiny silhouette, the woman is running away and pursued by what seems to be two guys on those weird kind of lizard raptor things that we saw the Kaido's guys using before, and a figure zooming up.
They're like a cross between Dino from the Flintstones and like that Godzilla from the beginning of the Shin Godzilla.
Did you just call Dino Dino?
Whatever.
Yeah,
Dino.
that's the joke.
Oh boy.
So on the next page, Luffy sees that this figure running up behind the guys defeats them handily. He's like, oh, that's a tough guy. Is he a samurai? And as the guy is getting up from his defeated bad guys, the ladies like thanking him, speaking in this sort of formal Wano dialect, good sir, whoever you are, thank you for saving me. And he's like, I just did it because I wanted the booze, verily. And Luffy, the dog that he's riding on comes to a stop, and Luffy is like, I think I recognize that guy. And as he sees him guzzling down some sake or whatever, he's like, that's Zoro. And so here he is in all his glory. Really, really great drawing of Zoro here on the next page with a bang. And when I first saw this with his arm covered up, he really very strongly resembles a film character named Tange Sazen that I think Zoro's post-time skip design is partially based on anyway. This one-armed, one-eyed swordsman that is in tons of movies, portrayed by lots of different actors. But especially they have some similarities where he's sort of a drunkard who's, surly and whatnot. It has a sort of Zoro-esque personality. So he's really embodying the part of the grumpy, drunken, wandering swordsman here, as excuse me, as Luffy and his caravan run up and say, Zoro, look, it's me. And Zoro is super pleased, saying, Luffy, you're here. And I love he's got like a straw hanging out of his mouth and stuff. He's or a piece of grass or something. And Luffy jumps off of the dog and into Zoro's face, saying, long time no hoof, I guess is what Zoro's saying.
That's Luffy, like, impaling himself on Zoro's head as he jumps down. Like, long time no hoof.
Yeah, Zoro gets a face full of Luffy's junk right there.
Kind of.
And Zoro is keeping up the act by saying that verily it has been forever that they've seen each other. So he asks if everyone's here, and Luffy's like, yeah, we split up, but I'm sure they're fine, as is the way it usually goes.
So I guess Zoro is really just playing into the character, or Oda is, with him just guzzling some sake, because I was about to say, like, geez, if post-time skip Sanji's a lech, then Zoro's a boozer.
Yeah.
with the gourd and everything. I love it.
Yeah. I love that the exchange between him and the woman who, whenever we get close in, her face is covered up because she's clearly not an important character.
Or is she?
Yeah,
I don't know. It was very suspicious. I thought that was very suspicious that
Me too.
you never even got like a halfway detailed drawing.
Ed was saying that ironically, right? You were joking about that.
No. And the person who was asking the woman to leave everything was not Zoro. Zoro was chasing. Yeah, I just want to make sure. It's kind of. I mean, you could tell.
I think there's a lot of misunderstandings going on right now.
Yeah.
I love the exchange where he says, he tells her, I wanted their booze, verily. But she says, but I must thank you. Well, I'll take booze. I don't have any.
Yeah, that was good.
Get out of here.
I was just gonna say that Zoro and Sanji, there's a saying like, you become an exaggeration of yourself as you get older, and Zoro and Sanji definitely have lived up to that motto. Ed, yeah, you could finish us off.
More importantly, he's like, hey, you got some meat? And Zoro tells him to take as much as you can, take as much fish, as meat, and as you want around here. It's a free-for-all. Don't worry about the food. And Luffy says, no, you better be careful. The water around here is poison. So the meat and fish, just like this, are poisoned too, as he takes a big bite and forgets that he's telling this to Zoro, the man who once ate razor blades. So, but Zoro does say, no wonder my stomach hurts. I imagine it.
I love that panel so much.
With his bottom lip like sticking out, with his little piece of grass in it, sticking his chin out like he's thinking really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he tells Zoro to hop on Ralph Camacho. So he's like, yeah, well, some stuff's happened. Taking her to a doctor. And so after Luffy tells him what's happening, Zoro notices, hey, that kid's wiped out. You shouldn't be standing around eating, man. After Luffy has already told him what's going on. But someone else arrives on scene at this point. We see from the back of his head his long blonde hair, and he says, is that the nationally wanted Ronin, Zorojuro, and his companions? And Luffy recognizes, hey, isn't that... Oh, it's Basil Hawkins. He says, Straw Hat, I was just on my way to Curry Beach. You are the culprit I'm after, I presume. And Zoro informs Luffy that, yep, that guy's working for Kaido. And he continues, I've lost 2 of my men and 1 baboon. Likelihood it was you is 98%. But that doesn't matter right now. Your choice in Wano is clear. Join the mighty or scramble and run in fear. And those beasts that the other 2 flunkies are riding, like the faces really look like the Godzilla, like the beginning Godzilla from Shin Godzilla.
Oh yeah.
Don't they also look like the Punk Hazard? Remember the little dragons? In Punk
the
Hazard?
sort of derpy dragons.
Yeah, the derpy dragons.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but how about his mount? Like
yeah.
That thing is cool.
Shin reindeer.
Man, Chopper's got a crazy disguise in Wano.
Go ahead.
It's the last panel, and the two Kitetsu are side by side, and Zoro tells Luffy, "This is what Kinemon said, Luffy. Don't cause a fuss." And Luffy said, "All right. Well, our choice is clear. We'll apologize later."
And that's and then One Piece is off next week. So before we continue, just a little note. I was rereading some of Zoe, and I did not realize the Odin was the daimyo of Curry. So we have been in, I think, for most of this time, Odin's former kingdom.
Well, it makes sense that Otama would be telling the people that they'd be in trouble once Odin came back. Once the family.
Yeah, that's
cool. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I just noticed that. And I think Greg mentioned something along the lines that the editor of One Piece said you should pay attention because there's going to be a lot of stuff from Zoe that'll pay off or references that you might see again. So a reread of Zoe, which we're going to do in a couple months, is probably a good idea at this point in your One Piece career. Yeah.
And just to clarify, this is Sugita, who was editor during Zoe when they broke a lot of the story for Wano, or at least according to him.
Yeah. And it's the current media editor, so still very well involved, as we mentioned earlier. So let's talk about this chapter. I normally don't start with this person, but he is our biggest Zoro fan. I was going to say Steve. Ooh. Ed. Go ahead.
Mr. Zoro's cool.
It's true. I mean, he is. But Zoro actually isn't in this chapter very much. He's in like the last 3 pages. But he just gets to be just the cool guy, like running in from he's got like the really cool moment of like cutting at the end of the chapter like 2-3 weeks ago and getting this. So he runs in from the side. He gets to save the damsel in distress. He gets to like knock out the guys and drink the booze and be like, it's just a happy reunion for him and Luffy. So they don't actually get, he doesn't have much to do, but he looks really cool. He's got like this cape that he's wearing that has like the Imperial insignia on it from Star Wars a little bit. But yeah, he's just so cool. Hopefully he'll get to actually do some cool stuff next chapter. But as for the rest of the chapter, I just I'm curious where this sort of what the ace like aspect of it is, because as you mentioned, it's very similar to Shanks's role in Otama's early Shanks's role in Luffy's early life, and sort of being inspiring to go live out your dream and things like that. So, I mean, it's sort of like, I guess it's kind of showing like the will of D, the real D. Showing people doesn't sound right, but showing people how the way to sort of live,
things being passed on to future generations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I'm curious. I'm curious where the sword story is going, because obviously, if the master swordsman, his sword creator is from Odin's the land of Kuri. That there's got to be a connection there. I think going back to even the first Kitetsu, and if, as we suspect, Kaido actually is like an ogre or a demon devil fruit holder, having the demon cutting blade or the cursed, demon cutting blade seems like what you would need to defeat him or do something. I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it is Kitetsu. It's, if I remember correctly, that's like demon splitter or something like that. I could be forgetting. Is that right?
Iron?
Maybe it's just a cursed blade. Maybe I'm remembering something else.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I can look it up here. Yeah, Ki is ogre or monster, and then Tetsu is it's not iron. Although iron is also Tetsu, but it's more like to pass through or to permeate, or to do something to completion, kind of. So there you go.
The One Piece wiki says demon splitter, so that's.
That's where I'm getting that.
Yeah, you're getting it from the same place they're probably getting it from. Okay.
The Tengu, he's got, I don't know. There's something mysterious about him. I don't know, not sure what it is, but like he's got there's more to this guy than meets the eye, especially with the mask. He's got a story.
Yeah.
He said, and he said he was waiting for someone else, and he didn't elaborate on that either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be crazy if it was Whitebeard and then Luffy had to say, okay, also...
you guys.
Whitebeard is dead.
Joey.
Oh, man. So I am so excited that Luffy has met up with Zoro in particular. Like, we all knew that this was going to be Zoro's arc, and to have Luffy with Zoro means that he's going to have the maximum amount of screen time, which is awesome. And it would be cool if it's just the two of them for a little bit. I'd be totally fine with that. It kind of brings
They're going to be
back...
so stupid together, though.
I know. I mean, it brings me back to like the first, the first volume or so where they were just a pair and they were being bad at being pirates. I wonder, is Luffy going to use a sword? And how bad is he going to be at using a sword? That'll be interesting to see. Of course, I'm, like I said, I was really excited to sort of see Zoro further embodying that film character. I did want to point out there is one of those films available to see called The Secret of the Urn from 1966. If people want to see it, it's streaming on a site called Midnight Pulp. If you can handle
Midnight Pulp.
Yeah, like they have a free version where you have to watch a lot of ads, but if you want to check it out, Secret of the Urn's a pretty classic one. Anyway, I've been really enjoying this Wano so far. I do agree with Alex. He had mentioned an episode or two ago that something about the drawing feels a little different, like a little scritchier or something. Not in a like bad way. It just like something looks a little off, and it's interesting. He and I were talking. He was thinking that maybe Oda was like using a different pen that's like a traditional pen or something, which I kind of like the idea of, but I don't think that's necessarily it. But like, but something does seem a little weird about the inking style from time to time. And yeah, I'm just excited to see more. I into this like environmental aspect. Like I feel like that's a thing that Oda hasn't necessarily super tackled yet as an environmental story, and it's one of those things that seems like so obvious when you're trying to think of like what are different themes that he can tackle. And it was not one I was expecting at all, because when you think of like ancient Japan, you wouldn't think factories and pollution and stuff.
Well, I mean, it's very Princess Mononoke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, this whole chapter kind of feels like that.
Yeah, and Luffy going away. You guys mentioned this, but like Luffy taking the small child with him does feel very like movie or filler. But the fact that it is happening within the story and it's a real story, and she seems like a more fully fleshed out character, makes it work. But yeah, so leads me to think, is this Lone Luff and Cub? But
I love it.
She doesn't really. She'd have to be. They don't have the same dynamic. She'd have to be like a hard-boiled killer baby to really fill that role.
She might be. We haven't seen her really unleash her stuff
She
yet.
does have the devil fruit power.
Shooting guns from the.
Gotta wait till she recovers from the poison to use her bewitching Kunoichi power.
Yeah, totally.
Her name is Tama, so she is hard-boiled.
Oh my god. We're making Japanese puns on our podcast now.
I know. I could go there tomorrow and blend right in.
Steve, what do you think? What did you think of this chapter?
It was fun. Yeah, I think it's great to have Zoro back. I don't think this one necessarily. I don't think we had too much development. Oh, who am I kidding? We the whole famed swords thing is back, and now we know some of the lineage behind Kitetsu III. It's nice to have Zoro back. I feel like the next chapter will probably be a lot better than this. Not saying this was a bad chapter; it just felt like a transitional one, and we pretty much were transitioning. We're leaving this bamboo forest, and now we're out here, and Secaucus. So
Yeah, I was thinking about when Hawkins appeared of like, there would have been a time where that would have been surprising or at least concerning. But now, like, I definitely think Luffy is stronger than him and could take him out, especially the two of them together. Like, I feel like Hawkins, like, he put up a fight, but if they had to fight like 2-on-1, he wouldn't stand a chance.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why we're seeing Hawkins first amongst all the folks that we're going to encounter.
Who cares about Hawkins?
It's because Apu is more entertaining.
Well, just because he's got to get, is the term jobbed?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to have a character kind of go down early.
I think Hawkins is going to put up a fight, but the story isn't going to end here, so. But we'll see what happens.
And that's the end of One Piece.
I mean, there was that part in Punk Hazard when they lost to the Yeti Cool Brothers. Yeti.
Whose faces we still have not seen.
I don't need to see them because I know there are two faces of two jackasses.
Yeah, but one of them is Rox, the famous pirate from 40 years ago. I might be conflating people with the same name.
Yeah, and then the other one is that robot dude that was guarding that island that Kaido ran. What's it?
Yeah, with a caribou. Yeah, Scotch. It was Scotch and rocks. Scotch on the rocks. You get it?
Yay.
Dennis.
Like Steve, I also like this chapter. Like it's good. It's not great. I think it's with the reveal of Luffy teaming up with Zoro at the end. I'm like, okay, it's leading up to something even more fun, which I'm looking forward to. I thought it was weird that Oda introduced Hitetsu's odd quirk that he likes collecting dolls. And since he makes a bunch of hats and stuff too, I'm like, do you think he makes hats for his dolls? Like, is he one of those people like?
Look, she's got a new hat.
Yeah, exactly. Is he like one of those ball joint doll collectors who make clothes and hats and wigs and stuff for their dolls? Who knows? I'm probably the only one who is going to say this. I'm glad that they introduced the Katetsu II super early in this arc, so I don't have to worry about like, oh, will they find it? Won't they find it? I don't care if Zoro gets it or not. I'm actually one of those people who are anti-Zoro getting Katetsu II because I feel the third sword chose him, so that's what he's going to roll with for the rest of the arc. If it breaks, I feel like it's going to be one of those weird rehashes with Yubashiri, and I don't know if I think that's a story beat they need to hit upon again. And what with Joey said, I am interested in how terrible of a swordsman Luffy is going to be with that sword. So sword plus stretching powers would probably equal some kind of fun.
I mean, we saw the monster Luffy from Thriller Bark.
Nightmare
Luffy.
Yeah. Yeah, so it could be good, but he definitely did a lot of punching with the sword hand rather than slicing.
Well, also, he had the shadow of a swordsman in him at that point, right? So he had some idea of how to use it.
Yeah, so I don't know if any of those things will linger on, but it's been a couple of years. Luffy's done some training.
Yeah, I wouldn't put much stock into his swordsmanship skills. Steven. Dennis, finish up. Yep.
Last thing was I thought that Tama having her first childhood crush on Ace was actually kind of adorable. Like I've seen that happen to people before, where it's like, oh, this little kid likes this older person. That's awkward right now.
I don't even think it's like that. I saw it more as like a Luffy Shanks thing, like an idealizing someone. I mean, maybe that was just me.
I mean, it's nothing terrible or anything that's happening. I just
no, I'm
not.
I'm not saying.
I thought it was cute.
I'm not saying it is. That's how I just interpret it as like
little kids can get attached like that to people.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, you saw Luffy and Shanks. Maybe Luffy had a thing for Shanks this whole time. Steven.
Yeah, it was another very packed chapter. Felt like we kind of raced through a lot of exposition. I think that definitely the last scene with Luffy and Zoro was the most enjoyable part of the chapter. Just seeing them interact again, and I definitely agree that like those two specifically together should be fodder for some real good hijinks. Just being, so like probably the two dumbest members of the crew. Yeah, and also, and Luffy being dressed the part as well, and I love that he does have the sword, because that even goes back to, I think Arlong was the first time where he like grabbed the swords and was like, yeah, I'm gonna use a sword, look at me, acting like a little kid with nunchucks or something. So I'm excited to see if Oda kind of works with that. As far as the rest of the chapter goes, I felt a little weird. Like, I agree with Joey that like on occasions there are some interesting things that he's done with the layout and such, but it felt like an oddly disjointed chapter in certain ways, where like almost every page transitions to a different like location, even in the same converse. Like they're outside, then they're inside, and then Hitetsu takes Luffy out and they're standing on the branch of the tree for some reason. And, there's just kind of a lot of jumping around that it doesn't necessarily flow directly from one page to another. There's like the part where they're standing on the tree, and then you switch to the pages, and then like Luffy is up top and Hitetsu is way down below it's just like, okay, what exactly is the logical flow here? I'm also not, just personally speaking, I am not super interested in the the ranks of swords type of stuff. Like he made it pretty clear by making like the numbers of them so large that it's not like the 7 warlords where it's like, oh, we need to know what all of these are. It's just sort of like, okay, here's like, this is a real boss sword, this is a pretty good sword, this is a notable sword, and any attempt to kind of make me care or try to keep track of more than that, it just kind of feels like I don't know, just like factoids almost that don't really have a lot of bearing on the story itself. So I'm not, I'm kind of hoping that we don't get bogged down in a bunch of little details like that, but I guess that remains to be seen. But other than that, I'm hoping that we can kind of get more of the like the context of everything that's going on in place, so that the story can kind of more naturally draw you forward. Like, if something happens with Hawkins and then they have to follow that up, or that pulls us more smoothly through this story, I'd be a little bit happy, because it has felt a little, I guess, unceremonious in certain ways. But we're still obviously very early in, so I'm not necessarily worried about it in any way. I'm just hoping to have more fun with it in the next few chapters.
I mean, I would echo your thoughts, Stephen. It did feel disjointed. I enjoyed all the content of it at the same time. I think the story needed to move, and it did move. And there's a lot of groundwork that's obviously placed there that we went through, I think, in the recap. Just the stuff with the village and the hat, the casa, and Ace's kind of involvement there, and Drake and Hawkins and Hitetsu and Kotetsu and whatever. All of that is interesting. And I'm sure when we reread this in the future, this is a chapter that I think we'd appreciate more. This always happens at the beginning of an arc. Oda likes throwing you in the middle of a situation and kind of you have to figure out what's going on. I think we mentioned this at the beginning of Whole Cake Island and the Seducing Woods. We're out of the woods here pretty quick, so that's the good news. Although I like the woods, the design of them, because they're made of bamboo. But yeah, I think there's also some issues here, just in how this was paced. But I don't know how I feel yet about the sword lore, for lack of a better term. I think it's because we don't have the full context to why they're important that I kind of would agree with Steven. But I think I have faith in Oda that they will be important in some way to the bigger story. If not the bigger story in Wano, then maybe the bigger story to One Piece. I think one of the most popular fan theories out there that popped into my brain this chapter was, that one of those 5 elders has a sword, though. It must be the Katetsu 1 or whatever it is. Which, I mean, I haven't looked at the hilt, but obviously the hilt makes a difference here because 2 and 3 have identical hilts. Yeah.
It's got that German iron cross looking thing.
Yeah, they look extremely similar. So I haven't looked very closely. But also, now we know the 5 elders aren't the highest authority, so who really gives a shit about them? No, but there's some really interesting stuff like that, where the groundwork could be laid for more stuff maybe down the line. And I think, but, my expectations for Wano are kind of sky high, which they were in Fishman Island too, so I have to temper them a little bit. I agree with Joey that the environmental theme seems like it could produce a lot of really cool stuff. And that's something that he was laying the groundwork in almost immediately. So interested to see where that goes. Any other final thoughts here, guys?
Yeah, I wanted to comment on the patterns on the clothing. I think is interesting, especially Zoro and Luffy's patterns. They don't read as what you would immediately think of as like traditional Japanese patterns, like flowers or clouds or whatever. And they're kind of very big and geometric. And I think that has a few different reasons. I think one of the things is just for a practical effect that Oda is going to have to draw these over and over and over again, and it's a lot more simple. But what it also does is it separates it from ancient Japan, and he's continuing like what I was saying about it being weird that there was a factory there. I wouldn't have expected that. Like, that's a thing that I've been kind of impressed with, is how he's definitely rolling with the ancient Japan thing and having a lot of fun with it, but he's also doing things to separate it and make it its own unique, One Piece setting. And so I think that's a really kind of interesting thing to look at. And another thing that I don't necessarily think means anything is that I think it's kind of interesting that Zoro's pattern looks like gears, which make me think of factories and stuff. But and that could, if you wanted to kind of extrapolate that could just be like, factories are very important in Wano, and so a traditional pattern are the gears or something like that. But it's probably just a design element that's interesting. But
that's whoever he stole it from works in the factory.
Yeah, something like that.
And the factory ties in very nicely to the Punk Hazard and Dressrosa kind of line that Zoro even mentioned in Zo was kind of the through line that we're finishing here. We kind of did take a detour to go to Whole Cake Island.
Yeah, and actually both he and Luffy both kind of have sun patterns on there. On those outer cloaks or whatever you call them, which I don't know, you could maybe say has some sort of tie-in with the clouds covering the sky and not seeing the sun or something. I don't know, it would be interesting.
Now we're getting into Matrix territory here. So yeah, that'll do it for the manga recap. Ready for the next segment, guys?
Sure.
This is the anime recap for episode 846, A Lightning Counterattack, Nami and Zeus the Thundercloud. I'm your host Sam, and today with me we have, once again, if you can believe it, we have Ed.
Yes. Yeah, not much happening this week in the anime. In terms of plot.
It's a bad, I think historically the really action-heavy portions are the ones you don't want to slow the pace down on, because...
Yeah. You just end up with a bunch of characters who may or may not have been named before getting their asses kicked in less than a minute. Yeah.
So the opening shot of the episode is actually kind of a weird one, where it's we're looking at the sunny and we're seeing the seducing woods burning in the background, and it's like really ambient, and it's an unusually kind of framed sequence where like it fades to black at the end as we're like watching the sunny watch the woods burn, and we're hearing all the homies go in the background, and it's like weirdly creepy.
It's a very accurate noise.
And then it like fades out to black as if like we're going to transition to a completely different scene, and then we transition into the woods with the Straw Hats running in this like big group shot. Jinbei is explaining to the others what Big Mom's hunger pangs are about, because Luffy doesn't quite understand it right away. And they're all kind of like taking turns jumping in and fighting off the homies, but then they all regroup back into the same like group shot where they're all running together.
It's a lot of what this episode is taking turns.
Yeah.
Everyone gets a turn.
Luffy and Carrot admit to eating the cake back on the top of the chateau. They come across it looks like the bridge that they saw earlier in the arc when they were coming through the seducing woods for the first time. Except Nami notes that the bridge is not broken like it should be, which means that it's probably just the woods trying to play tricks on them, which it is.
Yep.
There's the only like B plot we have to speak of in this episode is
the B plot. Okay, is this also filler? Like
some of it is not.
Okay.
There's definitely like one part of it that is from the manga, but it's we come back to Brook and Chopper discovering the shark submerge and going through it. Like it's just it's like something. It's something.
The end of this B plot felt like Bulma and the Crab level storylines.
I was thinking about that.
You know,
I
would hope that everyone listening to the show would know what I'm talking about, but just a terrible filler episode from the Namek saga of Dragon Ball Z.
That's exactly where my mind was when I was watching this for notes. So we come back. Big Mom is following them. She's got her children and their like little pastry carts kind of coming up behind her. Nami is getting her weather egg ready, and she's gonna kind of hold on to that for most of the episode. And Prometheus is like sneaking up behind Zeus, like, "Hey, Zeus, what you think you're doing?" We have a scene where Luffy is fighting Prometheus. He's using his Gum Gum Gatling, using his armament hockey, but it's not doing anything. So we've learned that Prometheus does not work like a Logia fruit. He's not like Ace or Sabo, where hockey can hurt him.
It's actually harder for Luffy to deal with. Although I do appreciate that he pops up as a cute son briefly before turning back into a. But yeah, I mean, Zeus and Prometheus are both cute.
Luffy out for a second.
They're both cute in this episode, but you know, I mean, that's what kept this episode like. It's not like it was poorly animated or anything.
There's one really good animated sequence. Is kind of what saves it almost.
I don't know about that.
So Jinbei is showing how you properly fight Prometheus by using his fishman karate, and he's going into the river. It's spear wave, and he like spikes Prometheus with a bunch of like water droplets, and that kind of has Prometheus like wilting on the ground.
Yep.
So Brook and Chopper, guess what? They find the shark submerge, and it's covered in like cream because of the falling chateau.
And so Chopper to eat his way out of the problem.
Yeah. So the Straw Hats are like, okay, things are too quiet right now, which means that somebody's about to attack us, I'm sure. And then people attack them. We get a bunch of names for these Big Mom. I think they're Charlottes.
We've heard of them as Big Bro, although that could just be a gang thing. But like, I don't remember any of their names except for Tablet, who is voiced by Kazuki Yao. Tablet is such a stupid name.
The names are Mobile, Kato. Kato's the like pumpkin head kid. Mm-hmm. Somebody named Campo, Lauren, Tablet, as you mentioned, is Kazuki Yao.
Yeah.
And the big guy is High Fat.
Oh,
so you got the kids on one side of the path, and Big Mom coming up behind the Straw Hats, and that brings us to the eye catch of the episode, and then we come back to Brook and Chopper in the submerge, and this is the brief scene that is like at least I vaguely remember this in the manga where Chopper's looking out the window and going, "Oh, is that a mermaid?" But in the manga, it's like such a small, tiny detail that you'd almost miss it.
I mean, actually, Brook's gag here is pretty funny. With like that he loses all interest in anything that's going on when he finds out it isn't a mermaid. It's like he was bait and switch, and he's just being pissy about it.
Yeah. We get a little scene of the territory slugs that
that's right.
Mondor was talking about an episode or two ago, kind of moving away. So we come back to the seducing woods. There's a big action scene. This sequence is really well animated, where it's everybody fighting their it's a series of little mini one-on-ones. Carrot's fighting Kazuki Yao, Jinbei's fighting I think High Fat. Luffy is fighting, Sanji's fighting, Pedro's slashing about. Like, it all looks fantastic, and I really like how they kind of put an emphasis on. Like, there's an emphasis on like the weight of the characters fighting. Like Jinbei fights very differently than Carrot fights. You know.
Yeah, it's true. But I just, I don't know. These characters are just. What are we doing here?
Well, we beat them. Jinbei, the big action scene ends with a big giant shoulder throw from Jinbei that looks pretty cool, and you get the classic anime like slow motion, like blood coughing up.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are defeated. We kind of boom, 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 boom. It's kind of like the end of Fishman Island almost, where it's like, look at them. They've all been beaten at once. Luffy grabs Carrot real quick because they're now back to running. Carrot has an idea where she's thinking of we have this little kind of cartoony version of her imagination where she's going to jump up on the trees and like get a sense of the right direction they should be running by seeing the sunny from a distance. But she gets up there and the tree just kind of slaps her out of the air.
Yeah, it was like it's sort of like it poked her with a branch or something.
Yeah, it's basically just like a tree punching the little rabbit girl.
Yeah.
Pedro takes a crack at it, and he's got his sword, and it's big sword Karajishi, and it looks like the classic Japanese paintings that we're seeing in Wano right now.
Yeah. So he's like spinning in a ball with his sword. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that brings us to the last thing of the episode where Zeus is finally like sneaking up on Nami, who still has that like weather egg at the end of her climate baton, and he's like, "Oh, is this for me?" Munch. And then he goes up in the sky and he starts to turn black, and he's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna do a thing!" And then big lightning bolt comes down, hits Big Mom. I wish they had animated this like more. Like I remember in the manga, like I really wanted to see like that lightning bolt like move into its swirl pattern. And
I mean, it was still impressive to me at least. But
it's just like a flash, and oh, there's the lightning bolt.
Yeah. Well, and it also like it does like a loop-de-loop.
Yeah. But I wanted to see the loop-de-loop in motion, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like they weren't going to spend any money on this episode.
I mean, beyond the one, I think that one's okay. So this is the end of the episode, basically. So now we can transition to general thoughts.
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh, I guess you got nothing.
Not much. They're getting chased a lot, and I mean, some of the fights are interesting. I do like they bring up Zeppo. The guy taunts him about it right before he gets beaten. Right. That was interesting. But man, I don't got anything for this episode. I was not like I wanted to turn it off, but I just wasn't particularly entertained.
Yeah, this is the part where like my enthusiasm for this kind of section of the chase, where I'm like, I'm at my end.
Was it like 2 episodes ago where they showed Katakuri on the ship at the end of the episode?
I think they probably showed that last week.
Was that last week? Okay, so I guess that makes sense. That I thought that they would get there this week, but I thought that a couple of times in this arc, and that with the various things, and that hasn't happened. So I had to recalibrate my expectations.
Yeah, I think there's still at least 1 or 2 more weeks until we're back on the Sunny. But yeah, like I wish that we felt like we had made more progress this week. I wish that, as great as I think that the little mini fights look, I wish it was the Zeus scene at the end that was like the real showstopper. Because that's like one of Nami's big moments in this climax is she gets like 2 big cool lightning bolt scenes, and beyond after this, that's pretty much it for her as far as action goes.
Yeah. I mean, Oda's really selling the treachery and how difficult the seducing woods are to deal with, and I just wish he wouldn't.
You wish you were done.
Yeah.
I think that should mostly do it. Are we ready to move on to the next segment, do you think?
I think so.
All right, let's go.
This is Piece Together 1, the cursed comments, theories, and questions that you have sent in to us this week. Let's start, Ed, with
this piece.
So for those who want to join us on Discord, just go to our Discord channel, show us your Patreon patronage, and join us on there. So the first question comes from King Cocoa Butter, who's our very own Ash. So we now have Hitetsu, Kotetsu, and Kitetsu. So could this mean that Kotetsu created the second and Hitetsu created the third generation Kitetsu in an attempt to emulate the original creation? Is there a secret technique that they've been trying to master?
Demon splitting. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Seems like where we're going with this whole Japanese mythology arc.
Yeah.
Are they getting progressively worse? Like, is Kitetsu 1 better than Kitetsu 2 and 3?
I mean, it's a higher rank, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, just because something's older doesn't necessarily mean it's better, but usually with swords.
Well,
I
if
guess
it's
it
older,
kind of
then
is.
1 would be better than 2, and 2 would be better than 3. But what makes the sword better? It's the sword's man or woman. Anyway,
Quality.
it's not, I mean, come on. It's your hockey ability. Abdul has question comments. I wanted to gush about the color spread a bit. It's one of my all-time favorites now. I love the theme, and I noticed new details every time I went back to it. I love the Straw Hat Jolly Roger on each of the crew's uniform, with the exception of Sanji and Frankie having it tatted. The sports chosen for each of them was perfect. Highlight of the chapter was Zoro and Luffy's reunion. It's exactly what I wanted, and I'm excited to see their shenanigans. As we said, being bad at being pirates. Looking forward to the podcast. Thank you, Abdul. Straw Hat Pirate 9 says, my boys are back together. I cannot wait for more fan art and cosplay from Wano to start popping up because everything in this arc is so good. Excited to see what shenanigans Luffy and Zoro get into. And Oji-san says, hey, One Piece podcast boys and girls, if the podcast crew has to infiltrate Wano society, what would each member's cover be? No, Zach, you can't be a meatloaf seller. I also had, roast beef, guys, roast beef. Had a question. There's also a question. Do you think that the weapons factory that Kaido built is linked to the liquid iron ore that Koala found in Dressrosa's weapons? It would make sense since we don't know where those weapons came from and that Doflamingo sold came from them. I think Ash, was the one who posted also that Dragon had mentioned that they came from a particular country, did not mention what that country is, the liquid iron ore. Do you guys have thoughts? Let's do
go with disguises first.
Let's do disguises first. What would your disguise be?
Disguise. Go ahead.
It's not quite old enough, but I would like to be a Kamishibai artist and performer. That's the traveling paper theater that kind of predates comics, manga in Japan.
That's a good one.
I'd be a feudal Japanese attorney. No,
I don't know. I'd be a quack doctor.
I'd want to do like a street vendor for food type thing, but I would also be worried that I would just eat everything because that food's so damn good.
I think I'd be in the government somewhere. Steve, do you have any?
You'd be working for Orochi.
Yeah.
I'd be a street rat.
Like Aladdin?
Yeah, riffraff and all.
And also, I guess, just thoughts on the liquid iron ore.
Sure.
I mean, there's nothing you've seen really indicating that, but that'd be cool. I mean, yeah, true.
It fits. Well, there's nothing that says it can't work. Right. Let's go on to emails. First one comes from Derek Hess, who says, just want to say he received his Patreon shirt and mug last week, and yes, you can get those if you're at a certain subscription level. And he actually goes through this. I didn't even have to do it. Derek did it. He said, Why, the ones you could get by subscribing to the Patreon page, of course. Not only do they bear the One Piece Podcast logo, but the shirt is extremely comfy and the mug holds liquid, both hot and cold. Amazing. All around great products for a great show, and for a simple monthly subscription cost, what a great deal. I swear I did not write this. Subscriber would like to note that he was totally not bribed to write this ridiculous ad for a Boston cream donut, but would gladly accept one if given. Okay, if I see you at a convention, remind me before you get to the convention to get you a Boston cream donut, and I will get you one. Anyway, he says, thanks so much for giving us a quality podcast every week. Keep up the fantastic work. And congratulations to me, Zach, on his recent marriage. Thank you, Derek. I swear I did not write that. I didn't. Next one comes from Martin, who says, are we going to see Luffy use some fancy sword action this arc?
Oh, yeah. The
Define fancy.
All over the place. He's going to stretch his arms and just wave the sword around.
Yeah,
Like
I want it to be a named, like, Gomu Gomu attack, though. Like, Gomu Gomu, I don't know, helicopter out of control.
Next one, Straw Hat Evie says, hey, roast beef, Zach and crew. I'm hating this, by the way. I wanted to start by thanking Steven for his awesome work on the compendium. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it on release day and found the interviews near the end particularly interesting. I'm glad Steven is on the podcast because I find his mindset needed to work his translation clever. Mindset needed to work his. I get it. He finds the mindset needed to work on a translation clever. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I read it wrong. That was my fault. A week or two ago, he was talking about why he chose to use Big Bro instead of Boss for the new Wano girl's nickname in case of a potential joke that would come out with Big Brother. So that kind of foresight is amazing to me, and I doubt I'd be able to do that. Is there any information on a second compendium, even if it's being planned? If you don't have a date range, I like this format a lot more than buying them all separately. Wasn't there a second one announced, or am I making that up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah.
So about a year from now, look forward to more news about that.
Nice.
I'm guessing those would be Eagle. What was it? Eagle, Shark.
They
and-
subtitled it by the arc. So I think they said the next one would be like Water 7 through
the time skip. Would that be?
Paramount War or something like that.
I'm trying to remember the name. What was after Shark?
And the rest will just be New World.
Was Tyrannosaurus the one after? Or was there one?
Eagle, Shark, Gorilla.
Eagle. I forgot Eagle.
Yeah.
Also, Strad Evie says, you guys have been talking about Moria a month or two ago. Someone had initially said that he was dead, but then Roast Beef Zach, really guy, corrected it a week later. I mean, I didn't have to read that, I guess that's true. Corrected it a week later, citing the panels in Post Marineford where it was implied that he had escaped. I've been meaning to write in and also point out that his ship had been seen in chapter 700, and it was used for Absalom to get word of Kid's Alliance. So I don't think that was actually Moria's, that wasn't Thriller Bark.
That was the ship that Absalom stole from Thriller Bark. I think.
It was him and Dr. Hogback, whose name I was trying to forget. I think that was like a mini dinghy ship, Yeah. Ryan has a question. With the reworking of Broly by Toriyama for the new Dragon Ball movie, it got me thinking, are there any One Piece movie characters that you would like Oda to retool for a One Piece movie where it would fit into the story? I do want to say that movie looks freaking nice, which I'm sure Steve could talk about for a while.
You got the Zach stamp of approval.
It's got the Zach stamp.
Nice.
Freaking nice.
When it's nice, you got something special. Ed said Zed. I agree.
How about one that Oda had nothing to do with?
Yeah, I was gonna
that's
say,
right,
like, if he designed the
that's the
character,
real
then it
challenge.
doesn't really count.
Because I would love Shiki just to hear his laugh again and him say baby doll.
Oh, this is
Uh,
easy. Movie 6. What's his face? I don't even know his name, but
Baron
Baron,
Amatsuri.
it's in the title of the movie. I should have known that.
But then again, I wouldn't necessarily want to see him worked into canon because that's his story was told. I think it was.
Yeah, that was a perfect little
The
movie.
story was weird.
The movie 4 guy, I think
a
would fit.
Gaspard, who's basically former Marine crocodile.
Yeah.
Yeah, Candy Croc.
Candy Croc.
Andy Croc.
Yeah, I mean that's.
I got it.
Yeah.
I gotta admit, other than the films that Oda was involved in, the villains in the One Piece films are not their strong suits.
Yeah.
Also, those movies are kind of average, some at best.
Not as
Man,
memorable. I can't even really remember the villains. It's been so long since I've seen those.
Ooh, you know what? It messes up with the flow of Drum Island, but Wapple's brother was fun.
Yeah, and that could work, within
In a
the
movie.
story.
Yeah. They're saying specifically within a movie, but I guess a canon, quote unquote, movie.
Oh, within a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess. Yeah.
I
Wapple's
guess any
brother,
of these would work pretty well since they've all been in a movie before.
I don't know. To be honest, other than like Shiki and Zed and Tesoro, I'd say Baron Amatsuri classifies too. I don't find the villains of the One Piece movies that captivating to the point I'd want to see them return. So.
What about Crocodile in movie 8?
You know what? I would love to see Oda's take on that character.
I think Oda would probably do a better job with him.
How about Toriyama's take on Crocodile?
That would be interesting. So Ben Wild wants us to help cure his post-con depression. He asks, "Am I the only one who wants a special yo-ho from Brook for the Wano arc?" I don't know what would that include. I guess just like a
Yo ho ho.
Yeah, like
De Yozaru.
And also, what would happen if the revolutionaries got the support of a world noble? Or Celestial Dragon? Is that maybe what they...
The revolutionaries got the support of a world noble?
Yeah.
Well, then they would like part of a world noble civil war. They really want that? Like, you really want to even be on the side of any of them? I don't know.
Well, there's only one good one as far as we know.
As far as well, that's alive at least.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yo.
There's
Zuki cool-headedness.
Wait,
That's
what?
Brooks.
What's
Yo ho ho, Zuki cool-headedness. That's gonna be Brooks.
You heard it here first.
Okay.
Well, what's going on Reddit?
Sure. We'll start with Amiibo Hunter Zero, who says, "What effects do you think eating the poisoned meat will have on Luffy and Zoro? I remember when Nami got sick before Drum Island, with them stating that they've never been sick before. Zoro also mentioned the poison kind of offhandedly, and Luffy has a resistance to poison now, right?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Held down, yeah.
Yeah, obviously, I don't think that's going to affect them. It's more of a, they obviously cannot feed that to Tama, who really needs the food right now, and so that's what's driving the story. So yeah, I don't think that's going to be a big issue.
Yeah, that's what was so great about that joke, is it was kind of like it both was a great joke and hand waved the idea that these guys would be affected by it at all.
Right. It's not an issue for the heroes themselves in this case. Well, You're That Too has they had a follow up. This is the person who asked about the kind of the old kind of flamboyant take on Doflamingo that we had, and just wanted to clear the air that they weren't like accusing us of of being offensive or anything like that. And I just wanted to let them know that I don't think any of us took that personally, or would argue with that anyway. So consider we appreciate your feedback. John Garja says, "Given the color spread, which sport would each Straw Hat be the worst at?" I guess Olympic sports in that case.
Yeah, keep all the devil fruit users out of the water.
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
Zoro would be bad at cross country,
skiing,
running.
Oh, running. Okay. Oh, yes,
Or-
yes. Following the marathon, like the road racing. Yeah.
Sanji would be real bad at karate.
Right.
Hands.
Yep. Nami. Actually, Nami wouldn't participate in any Olympic sports because she hates amateurism. She would get paid.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
I mean, the Olympics pay you if you win.
It's not enough.
Brooke might be bad at like powerlifting or something.
That's a good one. I don't know. What's one where you have to like spend the hot day outside? That'd be bad for Chopper.
Mm-hmm. I don't
Yeah,
know, like
this summer.
Decathlon?
Yeah, like the marathon events. Yeah.
Um,
What about Frankie? Something with a weight limit on Frankie. He can't get under. He just gets disqualified. Or like
Maybe
a
he
long
can't-
jump.
He gets stuck in the luge.
it's stuck in the ice chute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's it's similar to luge, but it's on like asphalt.
Skeleton?
That's what it is. Yeah. Wait, no, that's also
No,
like-
Skeleton's also, yeah.
Skeleton is just a luge, but you're on your stomach.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's.
I think we've done enough. Piersey says, wants to know, am I taking crazy pills? It seems like a lot of people think Kaido and Big Mom are going to join forces. For example, I believe you guys answered a question about it last week, and I seem to regularly see comments on Reddit. I'm under the impression they are going to fight. I think this because Kaido said, if you come this way, I'll kill you, Lin Lin. And Big Mom says, I'd like to see you try. I'm just letting you know. Got that? Straw Hat's head is mine. Now Big Mom does say, come on, let's just get along like old times, but she seemed to say it with menace. There is a literal doom quote coming out of her mouth as she said it. Do you guys think they're going to team up or fight or something else?
Well, they don't have the same goal, really, so... I mean, they might at the end of this if Luffy pisses off Kaido enough, but...
Right.
Like, that would be the only chance of them teaming up is just to kill Luffy, but otherwise they have nothing to agree on.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening because they both have big egos.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because I'm like, on the one hand, I'm kind of tempted to say that, you know, because of the backstory elements, like it, you know, there's a reason why people are kind of assuming that Big Mom Part 2 would be more relating to Elbaf. And so I'm sort of tempted to say like, oh, maybe she's just not going to get there in time before they leave Wano. But then there's also the question of like, okay, well, how long, you know, how much of this stuff is going to happen while the reverie is ongoing? Is that going to be a thing like whatever gets announced out of the reverie as far as like the government's, kind of direction they're taking things? Is that meant to interface with like what's happening in these plots? And, you know, it gets real complicated real fast. But I don't know. I still kind of doubt that she's going to show up in Wano just because it seemed like it'd be real hard to pull that off in the story and you know, keep it to a reasonable size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with him claiming that One Piece is 80% done.
Sure, right. That's tough. Gunther C. Perk 97 says in the latest chapter, Luffy met Zoro first. What if he keeps on meeting the rest of the Straw Hat crews in the order they joined, finally leaving Jinbei, who will join the crew when Big Mom brings him to Wano with her?
Jeez.
Yeah,
it'd be funny, but like I guess that assumes that all the Straw Hats are all separated now, even the ones who just arrived.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be, but
right. Yeah, he could definitely do that if he wanted, but I don't think we haven't seen enough to assume that will take place. But I think we're all in agreement that we love, you know, Luffy and Zoro being, teamed up at the moment. Jojo Hunter has a funny story for you all. Before I started One Piece, I watched an episode with Frankie in it, and I recognized that he was on the crew. So when I got to Baratier and saw Don Krieg, I thought that he was Frankie. So I was waiting for Luffy to turn Don Krieg good or give him a hug and a heartfelt speech followed by an offer to join the crew. But of course, that never happened. So my question is, did you have any misconceptions before starting One Piece?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Joey.
Oh, I told this on an upcoming read through episode, but when I was first getting into One Piece, was around the time that Chopper's Animal Island movie was, I think, new-ish, and so I had seen some pictures from that online, and I was like, but I was still kind of behind, and so I was like, I can't wait to get to that weird bear. That bear looks so cute.
I was already into One Piece, and I saw opening 5 Kokoro no Chizu like long before I was caught up, and I don't think I watched Logtown yet, so I thought Polly was like Smoker's underling, like his protege. He only had 1 cigar. He was working his way up to 2 cigars. I'm trying to think if there's any others, because when I was first getting to One Piece, and Shonen Jump was like showing ads for like, oh, here's some of the toys and stuff in Japan. I'm trying to remember anything else. That's the big one though. That's the first one that popped in my head. I'm just gonna go with that one. That's that. And of course, there's the one we talked about last week in Piece Together when I thought that Crocodile was Higuma the bear back for revenge.
Wow.
I don't really have I don't have one like a pre One Piece thing, but like way back in the very early days of One Piece on the internet in English at least. Actually, Greg would find this really funny. There was a site. It was like the one fan site for it, and this was like all pre-scanlation and everything. A fan site run by a Japanese woman named who went by Rika, and the site was called Destination Paradise. Oh, yeah. And it was just like sort of an old school, like classic fan site where it's like, oh, here's like lists of the characters, and here's some synopses, and here's a little bit of fan art and whatnot. And she had like these lists of characters where she sort of themed them, like here's the people that are on the crew, and here's the bad guys, and here's this and that. But there were no pictures, or there were some like little tiny like drawn like pixel art icons of the characters' faces or whatever, but not all of them. And I was up to maybe like Logtown or like just getting into the Grand Line, and this was when the series was probably in Alabasta at the time. And it would say like, oh, crew members of the the Straw Hats, and they were listing these characters. I hadn't gotten to Chopper yet, and so it was like Chopper, and then Vivi, and then like Karoo, and at the time, at that point, it's like every single arc you're getting a new character, and so I'm just imagining these like cool skinny teenage looking dudes, just like Zoro and Sanji, and like, oh man, I can't wait to see Karoo. I wonder if he's like a karate guy or something, and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
And and then obviously finding out the truth later.
Yeah, that name of that site sounds very familiar. I think I vaguely remember coming across that in early days.
I don't know how long it lasted, but it was this would have been around like 1999 or 2000, so real old. ATLA for Life says, after so long, we finally get a chance at seeing Nidai Kitetsu II. I think I'm tearing up a little. Does the chronology make sense in this chapter? We learn that 4 years ago that Wano had a famine of some sort and people were starving. We also learn that Ace landed around this time, showing him as captain of the Ace Pirates. Then later in the chapter, we see him talking to Tama when she's 5. So either her birthday was around the famine, Ace stayed a year, which he didn't according to the chapter, or Oda bungled the dates, because you remember it's her 8th birthday right now.
Right.
Furthermore, doesn't it seem a little too quick that Ace would go from being captain of the Spade Pirates to becoming a division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates to traveling backwards in the Grand Line to Alabasta and then captured and killed in Marineford, all in a year. Well, I guess it would be 2 years because it's 2 years since the time skip. It's not that I don't think things can't move fast in One Piece. After all, most of these Straw Hats adventures collectively take about a year or so, minus the time skip. But it does seem a little convenient that everything happened within a year or so, not to mention that this must mean Kaido took over Wano within the last 3 years or so.
I mean, that assumes that this happens like before he joins the Whitebeard Pirates. Like we don't see his tattoo, and she might just interpret the captain as being the division captain. And we don't see the Spade Pirates flag in there, do we? I don't think we do.
Yeah,
it's not clear.
I mean, as far as like the general question of like, does this seem too fast? I mean, that's that's like the chronology of One Piece, in the present day. Like everything is happening extremely quickly if you actually look at it on a, on a calendar or whatever. I do think that the precise details of like 4 years ago, is she turning 8? Was she 5 back then? Maybe one of those numbers will get changed, since it was definitely mentioned that this was her 8th, birthday celebration day. So, that is a little wonky, but other than that, I mean, that's just kind of like a fine detail. I mean, I think in terms of like how it all works together, in order of events, I'm not that, worried about it
I did feel like when last chapter being kind of like, oh man, Oda is trying to tie this 8-year-old girl to Ace, who died a couple years ago. Like, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room with, like, how old she could be to remember stuff and whatever. And, it's a tight spot that he's put himself in.
Yeah. 11 Orange Blue has some more questions about Kitetsu. We see an odd panel right after Tenguyama revealed its name in the bottom corner of Luffy reaching his hand toward it while making a weird face. So do you think it is as bloodthirsty as the third Kitetsu and has to be tamed like Zoro did in Whiskey Peak? So based on the last panel of Luffy ready to draw the sword, will we have a situation where Luffy hurts himself with the cursed sword and Zoro has to step in to tame it? And if Zoro is getting the new Kitetsu, how do you think Oda will dispose of the old one? Will he be carrying 4 swords for a while until the third Kitetsu is somehow destroyed? Or will Shusui be returned to its rightful place and Zoro will end up carrying both Kitetsus? Love to hear your thoughts.
I said my piece during Manga Recap.
I've thought for a long time that Shusui is the sword that he got at Thriller Bark, right?
Right. Yeah.
I've that's been my feeling for a long time, is that he's going to leave that behind and leave with another sword. I don't know that it would necessarily be this Kitetsu or a different sword, or if this guy's going to make him a sword or like what. But
that's what I was thinking. I think making Zoro a sword, because they refer to Shusui as the national treasure of Wano.
Right.
I don't know if you get to keep that when you land there.
Yeah.
Like if we're gonna be running away like we did from Whole Cake Island, any sort of resolution of this arc involves him, I think, returning the sword.
I like the idea of him having 3 Kitetsus as his sword, whether that's 1, 2, and 3 or 2, 3, and 4, like from Hitetsu. I think that would be.
Get rid of the Wado Ichimonji though, Queen's sword.
Yeah, that is true. He would need to address that in some way. But it seems a little, I don't know, serendipitous that there are 3 Kitetsus and now we're seeing 2 of them in the same place. So I guess we'll see where he goes with these swords in this arc.
Interesting to see how they look when they're both drawn, because they have a similar hilt and stuff. And I don't know that I necessarily want Zoro to have 3 identical swords, too matchy.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, one of them could be a different color. We don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's manga.
Yeah. Right. Nivers has a question. I don't know if we've tried to figure out this one exactly, but going back to the infamous like Usopp being inspired by Africa thing, which specific African country do you think it should be? And I should point out, he says, which do you think Usopp is from? And then I should remind you that this is not where they're from. It's like what national, I guess, kind of character or vibe did Oda kind of associate with them, which is it doesn't sound that different, but it's a pretty different thing.
Yeah.
And Niver says, my interpretation is that he's from Libya since he looks like he can be related to Gaddafi, which is some slander there. But
I mean, he's got the hair.
No.
The hair is.
I'd rather just say he's from Africa.
yeah.
I don't know enough about the individual cultures of the countries of Africa, I think, to say.
Yeah. I guess that's
No comment.
yeah. Nobody's taking the bait on that one. Books is cool, says Oda and his staff occasionally mention he likes to plan for readers' expectations and then subvert them. So all we have to do is expect Luffy and Zoro not to fight Hawkins, and then they'll throw down, right? Right? Please? So, nope, they're definitely not fighting next week. Not going to happen. No.
Well, as soon as you expect something, it's like Schrodinger's expectation, right?
Yeah.
It can't come true.
Like Northwind says, it seemed like my thought from last week may come to pass, but what I find interesting is that Luffy didn't tell Tama that Ace is his older brother. What might be the reason for that? Maybe because he himself doesn't want to recall the tragic event, and that's why he only tells her that Ace is dead and not how and why. Yeah.
I think that'll go into the sort of dramatic resolution of whatever that arc is.
I mean, it's also exactly like Luffy to leave that information out. Like, he was surprised to learn that he had a father.
Yeah.
It seemed it's of Luffy's character, and I mean, him having a reason for not telling her would be more surprising to me than him just forgetting, or not forgetting, but just like not feeling like it was an important thing to say at the time.
The thing is, though, like Luffy, like, he doesn't care. He clearly does not have much interest in Dragon because he doesn't know Dragon or who he is. He's just like, oh, he's my dad. Okay, I guess. But Ace is his brother. Like if he's close to anyone who he considers family, it would be Ace. So I did find it kind of interesting that he didn't say, oh, Ace is my brother. I mean, obviously he's delivering bad news when he, mentions that he knows who Ace is, or at least knows Ace's status. So I don't know if that's like Luffy kind of showing some emotional restraint, or if it is like him kind of trying not to dwell on it, or what? Because otherwise he is kind of doing, I think, some kind of classic Luffy stuff where like he plays along with a lot of the stuff that Tama does, but he isn't necessarily like the helpful, cool big brother. He's just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, oh, you like me because I'm a cool pirate or whatever. Okay, whatever. I don't really care. He's kind of he's being his aloof self, rather than like the mentor type self that Ace would have been. So in some ways he is kind of maintaining a distance, but I'm interested too as to why he did not say that specifically. The Chef 12 says, do you think Otama will have an interaction with Zoro that reminds him of Kuina? She seems like the type of character that would say something like, don't look down on me just because I'm a little girl. How do you think Zoro would react in that situation? And would he try to keep her away from stairs?
Oh, God. I don't know. It seems like when Zoro was surprised by Tashigi, it was because they looked so similar. I feel like that's the sort of thing that Zoro would recognize, and maybe not, like without the looking alike. I'm not sure he would draw that comparison. It's been a long time since his childhood.
Yeah. Also, I'm not entirely sure yet if Otama, although she has a little bit of a tomboyish thing. We haven't seen, I think, the personality trait that would have that kind of chip on a shoulder aspect to it, the way that Queen obviously did, knowing that she was a really good swordsman, but was kind of destined to come up against these like physical hurdles or whatever you'd want to call it. That hasn't quite been an aspect of Otama yet, but she's obviously playing a part. She's playing a very specific role in like the backstory here that is kind of superseding that at the moment. SD Custer says, Fallout elements in my One Piece? Yes, please. Do you think we might see Blinky the three-eyed fish at some point during this arc?
That'd be amazing.
Very good.
That would be good. And then the last one I'll take from Reddit is from Pirate Hunter D, who says, we learn a bit more about Tama this chapter, which has led me to a very foregone conclusion. On top of her cute animal-related power, we find out that A, she wants to go out to sea with pirates, B, she has an almost certainly tragic backstory, and finally C, Luffy lets her wear the hat. It's happening, people. Apis is joining the crew.
No.
Okay, Ed, it's time to.
Peace the tweet. And a piece of tweet, everybody. First one this week comes from Your RGB, who says, Nidai Kitetsu is introduced in chapter 912. If Zoro happens to claim it, and none of his current swords are broken, will the joke four sword style back in Alabasta be a real thing? Also, how will he apply the four sword style? Interested in everyone's theories about this one.
His toes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Stick one in his armpit and
The butt crack.
It's like that what was that thing from South Park? The
Oh, yeah.
the perpetual
I think right.
like the motion machine.
Yeah.
Okay. Next
The
one comes
It?
from.
Are you talking
Albert.
about the It?
Is that what it
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Because what was that episode? That was the
It was the
Segway
airlines.
reveal.
Yeah.
Right, the segue. Yeah. Anyway, next one comes from Elvergun. It says, my man Zoro sharing that bro hug with Luffy made me smile. What does the sword grade matter anymore after Mihawk said any blade can be a black blade? That's a good question.
Mhm.
And also he mentions Luffy sees any person chasing woman must be Sanji. It's accurate.
Really speaks about his character.
Our good friend.
Yeah.
Give us the fish. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Joey. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that goes back to what we're all kind of coming to the conclusion of, that the sword grades are less important than like how they connect to characters or culturally within the world.
Yeah. Give us the fish, Uncle says. Am I the only one who thinks that the horse Robin is riding in the new color spread is supposed to be a character in the series? It's the eyes. I mean, I can only think of two horses that we know, and that's Ferrul and Pierre. Were there any other named horses in the series?
Stronger.
That's right.
Stronger, yeah.
It
Yeah, but none
reminded
of
me of
that-
that
that was
horse that was in the on the cover of Jump last week.
Right.
That was with the volleyball manga guy.
This horse has the shifty dog eyes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's how you know he's evil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Yintab F had a question about. Oh, that's just the question about the blades and the swords. So yes, a blade is more than just a sword. We know that now. Next one comes from Dark Leviathan, who says, looks like Oda will be drawing yokai monsters because the contaminated water has caused some odd mutations on the animals of Wano.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
That would be super.
Yeah, the
cool.
polluted rivers would be bad for the kappa.
There you go.
Yeah. Huh. I didn't think about that. That's an interesting angle for sure.
Next one comes from Ghost Starch, who says, if Tama's ability works on Sea Kings, then the Straw Hats may have someone to counter Poseidon if she were ever forced to attack them. Frankie could also build a replica of Pluton if it need be. A side that has Uranus will probably tip the scales in the final war.
Don't pronounce it like that.
You really have to pronounce it like that.
Change its name to your rectum.
Poseidon is Shirahoshi, so she'd be countering Shirahoshi.
Well, they said forced to attack. I mean,
Yeah, let's not be vague here. It would be Shirahoshi.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's overselling her ability a little.
probably. Next one comes from Nura G123, who says, if you had to choose an island in the One Piece world to live for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Amazon Lily. Yes.
Mhm.
I'm scum.
You just being hunted for the rest of
Yeah,
your life?
you would be murdered.
You didn't read the parentheses where they said assume people on each island will treat you in a civil
I didn't read it because I didn't want to.
Well, I just shot down your joke, so I get to live civilly for the rest of my life on Amazon.
So I would probably want to, if the parenthetical worked, some Totoland would probably be, any of the islands, or being able to go to different islands. I'd be very fine.
I think living in the Sakura Kingdom would be pretty good. They got that socialized healthcare now, right?
That's true, they do.
Yeah, and it's
Skypiea
cold.
might not be bad.
It is very cold, yeah.
Sakura Kingdom is basically just Canada.
Yeah, for someone, but you see, Ed lives in Chicago. You live in San Diego, Steven.
Yeah.
So I understand both of your opinions here, and how from Chicago, Sakura Kingdom's actually much warmer most of the year. Right, Ed?
Canada Island.
Canada Island.
Can you live on Skypiea? Because I might try that.
Yeah, I was thinking of that.
Are we talking about before or after the giant hole that Eneru makes?
After. Everyone lives currently on Jaya, up there in the sky.
Go on some hikes in Upper Yard.
Yeah.
I like it with the Cloud Islands too, though.
Well,
who says that can't get rebuilt?
Yeah.
Okay,
that's the easiest part to rebuild. You know how hard it is to get another island up there, man.
Yeah, I've been trying for years. What's next?
All right, Chucky A says, "Is it just me, or does that one guy on Ace's crew look like Lafitte?" Also, since Steven mentioned it last week, I was wondering if any of you played Magic: The Gathering.
Nope.
I do not.
Not particularly against it. Just never have.
And I don't know, who knows when Blackbeard and Lafitte met, but Lafitte was a policeman, as far as I know.
He was a sheriff,
wasn't it?
Sheriff in the West.
Yeah.
Sheriff,
He was a bloody sheriff, right?
Yeah, he was
literally a brutal cop. He's actually him and Shiryu probably get along really well.
As far as we know, none of Blackbeard's crew came from Whitebeard's crew. He seems to have assembled them kind of randomly along the way.
Yeah.
Like, you come with me.
He started a Discord channel.
Essentially.
We don't really know where Ogre, Burgess, or Doc Q came from.
To be fair, this podcast crew was assembled more like Blackbeard's crew than like Luffy's crew. I don't know what that says about us. In which I have randomly...
We're evil.
Yeah, that went without saying.
The evil podcast.
Break out of jail.
The evil anime podcast.
Which one of us broke out of jail? Ed, you know the answer to that.
Ooh.
All right, next question comes from MJ Carto. Says, not sure if anyone mentioned this, but it would have been really awkward if during the Paramount War, after saying his touching dying words to Luffy and smiling, Ace gasped and said, "Hey, wait, I forgot about Otama." Dead.
I like it.
Remember,
yeah, that would be awkward.
Otama.
They
Cracker
might
Jack
rewrite that in a movie.
Cracker Jakku says, "I bet the Whole Cake Island Straw Hats will find Luffy and Zoro via the commotion at the factory. The abandoned Amigasa village would be a perfect rallying point for the Straw Hats and their allies." Yeah.
Not bad.
Next one comes from Nick Fridge, who says, "I'm a couple weeks late, but Octopal's name has to be Taikoyaki." Like the drums.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Yeah,
That's good.
Not bad.
That is good.
Tweet that to Oda.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have that hashtag for the next however many hours.
A couple days, yeah.
Days.
Yeah.
Then the 27th?
27th Japan time, so I'd say to be safe, do it by the 26th.
Yeah. Do it by the end of Wednesday if you can.
Yeah.
We
should do a few of those. Okay, yeah.
This is actually a really good Twitter handle. Next tweet comes from @a Puerto Rican guy. Yeah, you have to get on Twitter pretty early to get that, I think. Next one. Yeah, I haven't listened to the new podcast yet, and I already missed the Steve and Alex combo. Anyways, now that we have a new lady on the podcast, Jill should host the episode that she owes us. If the cast is mostly girls, she might get more motivated to do it. Just do it.
I agree with him.
Just
Jill should just do it.
Just do it, Jill.
I'm all on board for that.
She's gonna do her drunk all-female One Piece podcast.
Yeah. Is
Honestly, I'm
Maddie
gonna
going to
say-
get crunk?
Yeah,
She just
but I'm
Go ahead, Steve.
saying it's good. You know, we have to just start treating this like a Money in the Bank contract. Like she has to cash this in, or she's gonna lose it.
All right,
What if
Jill.
we just
Jill
talked about the Shokugeki no Sanji episode or chapter?
yeah, she should. That's a good idea. Jill, you have until the end of the year to cash this out. Saying it right
Nice.
now. Yeah, there you go.
Next one comes from Pongzilla, who says, "Why doesn't Usopp use guns more often like he does on the color spreads?" Yeah,
He's figured out how crappy guns are.
yeah.
There's only so much you could do with bullets, whereas he has pop greens.
Yeah.
He's got all that botanical knowledge now. From it'd be a shame not to use it.
Mhm.
Next one comes from our very own Brian Newton, Dark King Zoro on Twitter, who says, been saying it for years. Kitetsu II is on Wano, and Zoro will get it, meaning all his current swords will be excellent grade. New thought, Tengu might upgrade Wado Ichimonji to supreme grade if possible. # gloat. It's a bit of a premature victory lap there, Brian. We'll check back in at the end of the arc. All right, next one comes from 91 Ryan, who says, did the end of the chapter look like Luffy was going to fight with a sword? Also, who thinks that Mihawk might appear in this arc?
I would like that.
Yeah.
I would like to flash back to Mihawk.
Yeah, I see a flashback
Mhm.
happening more than
Yeah. It'd be interesting if like Mihawk walks into Wano and just destroys all of their swordsmen, basically. Like, you guys have all this knowledge and you've kept yourself hidden away of like, except I'm stronger than all of you, and your art is nothing, and I kill you all. But that's the One Piece isn't that kind of story though. All right, next one comes from Blog Pika, who says, I love the panel where Zoro and Luffy reunited. It's like an old married couple being reunited after the husband took a long business trip.
So keep in mind here, Zoro would probably be the husband.
Well, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, my Zoro, you're home. Darling, I've missed you.
Like how they've just settled into a 1950s couple there.
Yeah.
Anything else, Ed?
There's a couple more. Stacey Chen asks, so since the top knot is a thing in Wano, does that mean everyone on the One Piece podcast crew needs one as well?
That's
Who says we don't already have them?
it.
I don't.
Yeah, I was gonna make a joke when we saw the destroyed village. Like even the houses have top knots.
They did. Yeah. Did
All right, the last one.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Animate Sam asks, what kind of drink would each Straw Hat pick as their go-to for happy hour?
Zoro's sake. I guess
Yeah,
that's pretty
Mhm.
obvious. Nami, screwdriver. Chopper.
Not mimosa.
No, like a literal screwdriver. She uses it and takes your money.
Chopper's hot buttered rum.
What?
Oh yeah, that butter beer.
Like
Well, hot
Chopper.
buttered rum is actually a thing.
Yeah.
Chopper would have like one of those like stupid like birthday cake shots.
Lava flow.
Root beer.
Or that terrible 5-layer shot you guys tried at Katsucon one year, right?
Oh.
Or was it? Oh no, was that Anime USA?
Yeah, it was in that, but yeah, that one.
Luffy
Chopper
gets
would
that
Chopper would have
martini
Mike's
or
Hard
whatever.
Lemonade.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I
No, you go ahead.
was like, Chopper would just have Mike's Hard Lemonade.
Yeah, Zima.
Smeared off ice.
I
Nice.
was gonna say that Luffy needs that cocktail with the meat cocktail from that Fishman Island color spread.
Yeah, some kind of bacon thing.
There's a Bloody Mary that's over at Slater's 50/50 where it's like a bacon Bloody Mary, and instead
Yeah,
of a
there
celery
you go.
stick, there is a strip of bacon inside there with bacon salt.
What would Robin?
I think you answered your own question.
That's not
You
a
have
drink.
Something classy.
Yeah.
Glass
Like
of
a she
wine.
like a glass of
Old-fashioned.
wine.
Manhattan.
Wine.
A Manhattan.
Mm.
I think.
Manhattan. Yeah, I can see
Call
that.
that a Manhattan.
No, because it's a super strong drink, but it also is very classy.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of a Long Island iced tea.
Yeah.
Sanji, DVD Sanji, he would have a martini for sure.
I feel like Sanji would have a Long Island iced tea because he always tries to act cooler than he is.
Did someone say Usopp already? Do we have an
No.
Usopp?
No.
Usopp is a Long Island iced tea.
Okay,
Yeah,
they can't
Long
all have
Nose.
Long Island iced tea.
No,
Long
but
Island
we
iced
didn't
teas
say
all
anyone
around.
had.
Yeah.
Usopp would have one because it's long like his nose and it's sweet and it's deceiving, and Usopp would probably get.
It's certainly deceiving. I'll give you that.
Okay,
Sanji would have a vodka dirty martini. That's what he would have.
Okay, there you
that
go.
does it for Piece Together. Let's round off the show.
Sure.
This has been the One Piece Podcast, episode 529 for July 23rd, 2018. Remember, this Friday and every Friday through the summer and fall, we have episodes of the One Piece read-through. Skypiea starts this weekend. We've also announced some of our winners. We'll be announcing this week's winner shortly. I'm a little bit behind on that, to give out the One Piece Compendium, translated by Steven. We talked a little bit about that this episode. It is amazing. Pick it up if you have not. And there is no chapter next week, but we will be back with a chapter. That's Shokugeki no Sanji, the Food Wars Sanji, not really crossover, but it's by the author of Food Wars. But before we round off today, how could the good people out there contact each of you? Maddie, our resident artist, who is always here in the background. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/O, that's raspberry, where I am posting One Piece stuff all the time. You can also find me at patreon.com/OH, that's raspberry, where for $5 a month you can get an exclusive postcard each month in the mail.
And Maddie said she'll be on the podcast this August, so
After August.
Oh wow, okay. After
September.
August. So this fall. I'll do it like a movie where you're not quite sure when it's going to happen. We also had Joey with us. Joey, where can people find you?
They can follow me on Twitter at Joey Weiser, joeyweiser.tumblr.com. I post news about my comics. Tragic-planet.com is my homepage where you can check out my portfolio, comics and illustrations and stuff. Please read the Merman graphic novel series. It's a 5-book series that is out in hardcover and softcover. The last volume, 5 softcover, is coming this fall. And please listen to Toho Yaro, a Japanese film club podcast that I host with my 2 co-hosts, Alex Kazanis from the One Piece podcast and our friend Scott. And let's see, the current episode up is one that I hosted about Chuck Yarrow 5. And the upcoming episode, which will be dropping soon at the beginning of next month, is one that Scott hosted about Yasujiro Ozu film, An Autumn Afternoon. We got into some nuts and bolts film talk with that one, which was really interesting. So yeah, please check it out and follow Toho Yaro on Twitter and Facebook too.
Dennis.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, or Twitstagram, as no one else calls it but me, at Itchnob. And I also host a podcast called the Vintage Anime Club Podcast, where we go over old school anime with my friends, and we drink a bottle of wine or two while talking about it. Last episode that we recorded was for probably one of the better video game anime related titles out there, Street Fighter II, the animated movie. And after this episode comes out on the One Piece podcast, I will be posting an episode about Spirited Away.
Never heard of it. Steven.
It's okay, I guess. Just won some kind of Academy Award thingy. I don't know.
You can follow me on Twitter at Translatosaurus. I have a few photos from Comic-Con. I never tweet as much as I always imagine that I do, but since I did forget to mention this in the intro, I want to thank there was actually someone who came up to me after the translators panel at Comic-Con and said hi and said they were a fan of the podcast. So thank you to that guy. I didn't catch his name, but for coming up and saying, I don't think any podcast fans have ever actually made it, or at least told me that they made it to the panel. So I appreciate that. Yeah, if everybody else, you can follow me on Twitter at Translatosaurus.
They do exist. Steve.
Yes.
You can follow me on social media like Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr. It's Steve Yurko, all one word. I will be at Crunchyroll Expo in San Jose, California, Labor Day weekend, and I don't know. That's all. Thanks.
Ed, how could the good people out there contact us?
You're Zach_Logan on Twitter. I am Edward E. One Piece. The podcast can be found at OnePiecePodcast.com, Twitter.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com/OnePiecePodcast. OnePiecePodcast@gmail.com is our email address. OnePiecePodcast is our Skype name. Please support us. Patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. Our subreddit is r/OnePiecePodcast. You can leave us some piece together there. You can subscribe on SoundCloud, subscribe on Google Play, subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, or call us on our phone number. Zach?
And that phone number is 347-497-MAJI.
Maji.
That phone number is 347-497-6254. Call anytime.
Literally any.
With your questions, comments, or what a weird little Tama you might be. So, we didn't have any trivia last week, so I'm going to make up with it for our hardest trivia game ever. All you have... There are 30 named blades in the One Piece world. Name any of them. We're going to do it as we usually do. For those who haven't played before, we're going to go in the order that we did the manga recap. When you get one wrong, that's not in the category, or when you repeat one, or you can't think of one in time, you're out. I'm going to be strict with time limits this time. So, ready to go? The order this week will be Steven, Dennis, Steve, Joey, and Ed. Ready? I don't care.
Okay.
All right. Steven.
Hey, what's the order?
It's going to be Steven, Dennis, Steve, Joey, Ed. Steven, start.
Wado Ichimonji.
Yes. Dennis.
Kitetsu the second.
Yes. Ed.
Electric Boogaloo.
Katana Boogaloo.
It's my turn already?
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so-
Steve.
Kitetsu the third.
Joey.
That elephant.
Yeah, what's his name?
Pokey elephant guy.
Joey is out. Ed.
The elephant's name is Funkfried.
Like how he just finishes yours. Round 2, Steven.
Kitetsu the first.
Yes. Dennis.
Yubashiri.
Yes. Steve.
Shusui.
Yes. Where are you, Shusui? Ed.
Captain T-Bone's ship slicer.
I'll take that. I didn't actually have that one, but is that the name? Can anyone here?
That's what he called it. Was that its name? I mean,
yeah, if that's what he
I have
called
no,
it.
I have no idea.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I didn't have
Sounds
T-Bones.
familiar. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it, Ed.
Are these just? I'm sorry. Are these just swords?
No, name
Weapons.
blades. Name
Oh,
blades.
Name
Yeah.
blades. Okay.
Yeah. So where are we here? Round 3, Steven.
I'm gonna say Samegiri or the shark slicer. It's
Yeah.
the thing that Arlong used.
Shark
Yeah.
cleavers also an
Cleaver.
acceptable.
Yeah.
No, shark slicer. I think those are two different
Saw
things.
blade
actually.
also would have been acceptable.
Saw blade. Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
Kiribachi. Sorry, there's also a shark cleaver, which is another one. Can anyone here, for an extra, kudos, can anyone name who had the shark cleaver?
Were they a fishman?
No, it was a Marine.
Yeah.
It was a Vice
Momonga.
Admiral. No, one that you would never think
Oh,
of.
it's Garp's.
Momonga?
Nope.
No, it's Garp's partner, right?
Nope.
No?
Bastille is the answer to that. Anyway, let's continue.
Happy belated Steel Day.
So that was Steven. Dennis.
Midnight.
What?
What?
I thought.
Can you name the person?
I thought that was Mihawk Sword. Black Sword Midnight.
That
I could be
might
wrong.
be.
Is that what you call it in English? Because I was thinking of what it was in Japanese.
Yeah, I have the Japanese name. I don't have the English name.
Okay.
I don't. Do you want to try again?
Nah, I'm out.
You're
That's
out?
all I can remember.
Okay, Steve.
Don Krieg's battle spear.
Yeah, let me find it. Wait, there's so freaking many. Where the hell's Don Krieg's? I know I wrote it down. Okay, I'll take it. I don't know where the hell it is. Go ahead, Ed.
I think Mihawk's sword is called Yoru.
Perfect.
Okay.
Steven, round 4. There's a ton left.
The noisy cricket. I don't know.
Getting wicked on us.
Yeah.
Which one's the what is that
That's Men in
referring to?
Black.
Yeah, I
It's from
thought
Men in
so.
Black.
Yeah, I'm like, that's definitely not One Piece. Steve,
Son of a bitch.
there's a ton.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna
Son,
kick
go and
yourself
look at your
when you
data
hear-
books.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them are like that, but some of them are also not like that.
Sorry.
Some are obvious.
God, I'm probably just
3
no.
seconds.
It's not a blade. The Ohm's cloud cut thing, white cloud.
That's not the
Maybe.
name of it. Nope. Ed, if you get this, you win.
Napoleon.
Yep, that is one.
Oh, nice. Oh.
What was Cracker's sword?
Pretzel. Okay, so remaining. Recently named Gryphon from Shanks. Shigure is Tashigi's. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Kashu, which was Mr.
Shigure was Tashigi's, right?
Yes, Kashu. Can anyone remember who originally had Kashu? This would be extra bonus points. I would give a donut if you could get this. That's how hard this is. Okay, that was Mr. 11, and then Tashigi took it. Terry's sword was the name of Dory's. Iron Whip was what you were trying to think of, Steve, was Ohm's. Soul Solid is Brooks. Durandal is Cavendish's. Oto and Kogarashi is Shiki's, if you count that. Kikoku is Law. Shuruao is Amand. You really get to hear me say Japanese things today. Kagatana is Mihawk's little dagger that he stabs Zoro with.
Isn't it just Kogatana for little sword?
That's probably what that means. Bruiser Axe is Brogi's. Peacock Slashers or Vivi's. Heat Javelin is what Shura has, if you want to count that. Kesui is Hannibal's. Also, Bloodsucker would have been acceptable there.
What was Whitebeard's called?
I couldn't find that. There must be a name for that, though. Kirisami is Hody Jones' ridiculous blade that he puts on his fin, and Mogura is Katakuri's trident.
What about Laws?
Yeah.
Laws, I said, Kikoku. That's what I had.
Kikoku.
So that'll do it. Ed, congratulations. You really kicked ass, and I knew you would win that one. This
one was up my alley.
This is up your alley. Ed always was able to name I can name all 3 of Zoro's swords. I'm like, good for you. That's it for the One Piece podcast. We'll be back next week with our Sanji special, I guess we'll call it, and a lot more. So thanks. Also, big thanks to Sam for doing the anime recap this week. Maddie, of course, for the images. Please check out her alternative images on Patreon at patreon.com/One Piece Podcast. But until next week, my name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
And my name is Steve.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Later.
君が待ってる
And as we make it to the clearing, and it just really is a wasteland, and we see looks a lot like Newark, New Jersey. Right, Sam?